Audit what you said. Oh, no, they signed up already. Because Wilton got married there, so they want to let us sign off his friends. Look at that.
Yeah, that's right.
You're right. Does it hurt? I just had one thing. Okay. As long as it doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt, but you know. Yeah. Yeah.
It is 9:31 a.m. and I'm going to turn on the recorder. The time is now 9:31 a.m. I'm going to call the meeting of the Venetian Community Development District to order. Today is Monday, October 9th, 2023. The first item on the agenda is the call to order / roll call. Those supervisors that are present are Ernest Booker,
Present.
Ken Smaha, and Jill Pizarnik. We do have Supervisor Cheryl Harmon-Tarana with us via Teams, as well as Supervisor Rich Bracco, who just joined us via Teams as well. Supervisors, we would need a motion to allow Rich and Cheryl to participate and vote via Teams at this time.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I would add that I think we need a motion to permit Rich Rocco to chair the meeting in the capacity the.
We don't need a motion.
Okay, just to make sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aren't you vice chair? Yeah. Just step.
No, I have no problem doing it, but he's on.
On behalf of District Management is myself, Belinda Blandon. District Council Andy Cohen is present. Field Manager Keith Livermore is present. We do have John Fowler, Landscape Inspection Services, present as well. General Manager of the River Club, Andrew Kale. We do have, on behalf of Besta, Julie Cortina, as well as Heather. Is Heather here? Therese, okay. And for the record, there are audience members present. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. We ask that everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Remove your hats, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the public comment portion of the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, we will limit public comments to 3 minutes per person. Our first speaker is Deborah Smith.
Good morning. My name is Deborah Smith. I live at 106, My name is Deborah Smith. I live at 106 Valencia Court. First of all, I want to thank the board for all their work. I'm here to provide an appeal for help with an erosion problem, which was described in an email that I sent to Mr. Livermore and all the board members on October 6th. Our first appeal for help was sent on August 4th. We have approximately 10 feet of utility and drainage easement behind our house, 106 Valencia Court. This has not been maintained. The area is eroded and is collapsing into the wetlands, which are directly behind our home. The area was once level, and now there is a significant slope. And this erosion has occurred, has been quite dramatic in the past year. It's not being mowed, and we fear damage to our lanai and pool area. What can we do to solve this problem? We've been told that we can't touch CDD land or wetlands. We do appreciate the visit by Mr. Livermore and also by a couple of board members, Mr. Smaha and Jill Pizarnik. We urge you to discuss our issue at your meeting, and please get back to us with a solution in writing. Thank you.
Thank you.
think it's that microphone. Do you want to change it, switch it out?
Since there's one, why just take this and then we'll be good with this.
Our next speaker is Stephen Farmer.
Hello, my name is Stephen Farmer. I live at 133 Bella Vista Terrace. I'm here to speak to the tennis program here at Venetian. I've been a member of 3 private tennis clubs over the years. I've had over a half dozen private tennis coaches over the years. I've been working with Venetian's program and Coach Dave since last December. Take lessons from him twice a week, every week, unless something comes up and here I can't attend those. So I have knowledge about tennis coaches, tennis programs, how they work and how they operate. From what I've seen here is this program functions very well. Coach Dave has provided programs such as group clinics, youth programs. In addition to his private lessons, he promotes tournaments on Wimbledon. When Wimbledon's on, he has a Wimbledon tournament here at the club. US Open's on, he has a US Open tournament here at the club also. So the activities here are par excellent. The tennis courts are in very good shape. They're very playable. Clay is hard to maintain. These courts are maintained, and when there's a problem, the problem's addressed. So I'm speaking from a position of knowledge and experience, not an opinion of this program, tennis program here at the club, and I can't praise it enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mike Krejci.
Good morning. Is that on? Yep. Good morning. My name is Mike Krejci, live at 109 Savona Way. With regard to the board, we appreciate everything you do. Having been there and done that, I appreciate it. It's a tough job. I'm here this morning to speak on the item on the agenda titled Consideration of Universal Access for Rear Gate Access. There's a quote in your agenda, and I left a copy at your place for this quote for $33,000. I have some reservations about this entry, opening this entrance up to inbound traffic. First of all, I've been told there were a number of residents that requested this. I've never seen anything as to how many residents have requested this. There's been comments made that we need to do this because we need to relieve the pressure on the front gate, the manual part of the front gate, where vendors, contractors, visitors come in. And that there's an issue regarding, or will be an issue regarding Laurel Road and the Benito Boulevard intersection. I will try to address each of these and several other items. First of all, in general, I believe the proposal is lacking in what is proposed to be done with this entry. Example, my understanding is, even though it's not shown on a proposal, that the steel swing gates will be removed and we will only have drop bar access similar to what we have at the front gate. And I believe that opening this entry will cause excessive traffic on Presaro and Portofino, between Presaro and Cittadella, and Presaro and the roundabout. Okay, specific to some of my points. This really will only serve residents in the southeast quadrant. And unless the quads use it, then it will move to about 30% usage. It will not serve residents in the western part of the community. Use by the quads is going to create havoc on Pissarro and Portofino. I think we all know that during the week when the vendors are there, it's always a guessing game as to how you're going to get through it. Only the residents that have the entry tags, the AWID tags, will be able to use this gate. No vendors, no contractors, so it does nothing to relieve the congestion at the front manual gate.
Mike, your time's already up.
Okay. I think that this gate entry project needs to be better than it has been.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Darlene Shimberg. He said thank you.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Rich.
You didn't sign in, are you gonna speak, Roger?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll sign it, you can go after Darlene unless you wanna go first. Go ahead, Roger.
I want to pass this out before I start. My walking up here doesn't take my 3 minutes, it does take 3 minutes.
It doesn't if you have coffee.
Don't say anything. I didn't pay for it. It's not a brush.
Thank you.
Roger wants to speak, so Darlene is gonna go next.
There we go. Good morning. I'm here to respond to tab 11, which was Andy's law firm gave a opinion. There may be some part of it that needs clarification. I'll have to leave after my presentation for another commitment. So if you have any questions to me, I'd appreciate you providing them to me now. The Community Association, as you see before you, will be having 17 seminars and events that are directed to adding to the quality of life for our residents. This is the most we've had in the many years we've been here. Very, very pleased with our attendance. Some of the events like CPR and self-defense and estate planning are best presented with a small audience in a small room like La Vista, and it's capped at 25. They put the number 100 in the opinion. I didn't know where that is. The costs for our seminars and events range from normal publicity to the higher costs. This year, we decided to give our paying members priority registration, different from exclusive admittance. They are the ones, as we say, who foot the bill. Those who do not join do have access to our larger seminars. They're welcome to come. For example, Shredfest, Junkfest, our seminars on alligators. We allow everybody into this room in terms of the room size. However, there's a cost, again, that people pay for this, and that is through their dues. Those who do not join end up getting in at the expense of others. We want to do right for the CDD. We appreciate your years of positive relationship with us. I think you're aware that we have donated much to you, that audio system of $7,000 we've given to you. The 3 benches we have donated, all part of this is our community betterment fund. And we will continue to do this. Whatever you do, we'll comply with, which may result in an event that will be open to all those, including non-members. And it'll be open to financially supporting members. I guess what bothers me is something that is a principle of my life, and that is I get upset sometimes with basically those who pay the expenses, pay those who get in free and are not a part of it. So that's my concern, but bottom line, we'll do what you ask us to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Roger. Roger?
Thank you.
Gettysburg address, I want you.
Sell it.
That's right, on me, it's work
Thank
communities.
you. Our final speaker is Dar Shimberg.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the board. Believe it or not, we missed you, and I heard today was going to be canceled, so I'm very glad that you are here today. I have just a few comments about the club and how it's currently being perceived by the residents. While I applaud some of the changes that have been put into place, I have great concern with others. Change is always something that we need to be prepared for, but that is the key word, prepared. Too much, too soon has a negative effect. And it is important to get to know your audience. This is a club that we pay for, and there has to be some attention paid by management to that fact. To decrease what you're offering and increase a price has a negative effect. To decrease a menu and charge the same price has the same negative effect. I feel that we have lowered our attendance at some of our major events that used to bring in a lot of people just because of this fact. Too much, too soon, and no preparation for the people that it will affect. The other item I wanted to discuss is the tennis area. And while I applaud the person who just spoke about the tennis function, I know I am not a tennis player, which I'm reminded of each time I bring this up, but I am a resident and I pay for this privilege at this club as everybody else does in this community. This amenity that is enjoyed by about 20% of the residents, in my opinion, whether you like it or not, does not need a full-time pro. We can bring in a pro for events. We do not need a full-time pro on staff. I have reviewed the contract, and really, for an employment contract, there is nothing. Pat, you can shake your head all you want, but it is still, if you read the contract, there's nothing in the contract that designates the duties of the pro on a monthly, daily, or regular basis, and who he has to respond to and bring this up to on a regular basis what he's doing. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of paying for something we are not getting. Does he answer to the chairperson of the racket committee, or does he answer to our GM? And why would he answer to a chairman of our racket committee when the GM should be in charge of the tennis area? I have a lot of respect for Judge Booker, but I feel he does not have an unbiased attitude or response in this area. So I'm asking that something be done positively that will reflect for everybody in this community on what is being done in tennis, and not just Judge Booker or Pat Hinch's opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to actually close out public comment at this time and move forward with our agenda. We're going to move into staff reports, landscape inspection services, review of the September inspection report. This is behind tab number 1 for your review. Good morning, John.
Hello. Good morning. So I did an inspection with LMP September 29th. Enjoyed the property, just gonna highlight a few things. Everything that I'm pretty much gonna highlight has photos that I will go with. So number 7, start off, is pepper trees. Just along Laurel Road, there's a few large pepper trees growing in the shrubs between Benito and Siltadella. We just want to make sure those are removed. We know how noxious they can be. Number 14, palm fronds at the monument on the east end of Laurel Road. I do want to also say that there are quite a few items in this report that basically pertain to palm fronds, where we're going to need a schedule here pretty soon. A lot of the roundabouts have hangers on the palm fronds. Number 41 is just a photo of just a little bit of area declining grass on Benito Boulevard. There are a few spots here and there along Benito Boulevard, although they might be just a couple small, there's quite a few. So just want to make sure we're staying on top of that. And to piggyback on that, the fertilizer ban has been lifted, so this will help recover some of these areas as well. 43, I'm sure this is in the works, but just wanted to note it, that there was a dead tree on Benito Boulevard that has been removed. However, the stump is currently still there. Also, a big improvement, I believe, is the roundabouts where some of the grasses or turf was taken out that was in decline, and mulch has been installed, and a lot of those areas look good. Just need to stay on top of spraying the weeds that might be popping up through. And then that's pretty much just some of the highlights, and I will answer any questions you might have. Yes.
Where did the broken, here's this.
Where did the bougainvillea trees go?
That was not a decision I made, so I don't know, but
I don't know where they went, okay.
I do know they're gone and it's been sodded, but I don't know if they've been replanted. That'd be something with LMP and the landscape committee.
Oh, I see.
I can speak to that if you'd like.
Oh, sure.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
The landscape committee talked to LMP at length, and it was determined that replanting them, they would likely not survive. They were not the strongest and hardiest of trees, given the number of times they'd fallen over. So it was determined rather than go through the expense of moving them, they were just removed.
You're talking about the trees at the main entrance, Cheryl?
Yes.
They've been a problem since the day they were put up.
Yeah, exactly.
Forgot how to use it. So, just a general question. Does your service provide strictly inspection, or do you also offer advice, counsel?
Well, yeah, part of my title, I guess, is landscape specialist, so.
For example, by the landscape committee to be done, do you ever get involved in evaluating?
I don't, but I could do that if you like.
Okay.
Just giving a professional landscape opinion on what I see and what could be problems or benefits on both sides.
The only reason I'm asking, later on the agenda, and I don't want to keep you, but so I'm bringing it up now. Later on the agenda, there's a discussion about a proposal for pitch apple to be put around the parking lot area as a sound buffer. Two questions. One, like your opinion about that as a sound buffer. And then in reading the minutes of the landscape committee, I know there was a change from the recommended 30-gallon plants to 15-gallon, which I assume is just smaller. Any thoughts on that whole?
Pitch apple grow, and they're pretty thick from top to bottom, and they're really dense. So as far as a sound barrier, as far as vegetation, that is one of the better options. As far as how much it reduces noise compared to a wall or anything, I have no clue, but I do know that it will provide some benefit as far as noise. And as far as the 15 to 25 gallon, pitch apple in general grow really quick. The only issue is if they go in soon, it's not going to grow that much during the winter time, but next spring to the end of the summer should grow quite a few feet. So it should get to where you want it to be.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure thing. Yes.
I don't want to hold this too close because it sounded like it was very loud. There had been a question about maintenance by LMP of an area in back of some homes on Balanza. I'm just curious, do you know anything about the status of that?
Well, all I'm aware of, and this was brought up probably 2 or 3 months ago, I believe, in this meeting, and my boss actually went out and looked at it because he has more history. I think a lot of it has to do with some of that area is in the wetlands. So I'll have to go revisit it maybe with LMP and see if we can do some of it that's outside of the wetlands, but once it goes into the wetlands, I think we're kind of hands tied there.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure thing.
I'm sorry, just for clarification, this is Rich. Are you talking about, visiting which area, on which street, please?
Behind the homes on Balanza.
All right, I understand what you're referring to.
Yep.
All right, so you're gonna take a look at that and see if there's,
I'm gonna see
Something
if
else that
there's
might be done?
anything, yes, that we can do that's within the purview of the contract.
all right, thank you, John.
Sure thing.
Okay, one last question, I ask this one all the time.
Mhm.
In your opinion, overall, how is LMP doing?
I think this place has taken a turn and it actually looks pretty good throughout the community right now. Just a lot of detail stuff that is always on the docket as far as, pruning and stuff like that.
And do they remain responsive to your, request?
Yes, they do.
Thank you, John.
Sure thing.
Any other questions for John? Thank you, John.
Sure thing.
District Engineer, good morning, Rick.
Good morning. A few things here, the status of the pickleball. The fence is scheduled to go in this Friday. There was a little delay because when they went to pick up materials, the posts were the smaller diameter, and because we've got the taller fence with the panels, we needed the thicker ones. So that delayed us a week or so. But those are scheduled to go in this Friday. The final surface treatment is scheduled for the 19th. They'll come in, they'll basically wet the asphalt, find any minor deficiencies. They'll put a very fine grout mixture. They'll put it on there, then they'll grind it smooth. Then they'll come back. They're going to put in the foundations for the nettings. They're going to put down the paint, and they're going to screw right. All that is probably maybe 3 days worth of the effort. So that's what's scheduled with that. The LMP is going to be doing the landscaping out there. Chris and I are going to kind of walk through it right as we leave here. And they're scheduled to come in right after the fence goes up. So that's the status of the pickleball. Any questions on that?
Yeah, budget-wise, how do we look?
We're standing within the budget, so we're looking good.
Okay.
What we had done, if you noticed out there, there was some concrete work that was done. We had a little modification. Instead of having the sidewalk on the north side, we had the sidewalk on the south to begin with, and we just moved the gates from the north to the south. So we saved some money with that. There was a few different places that we saved, and we kind of, but we're still on the budget.
Okay, there's been discussion concerning the posts and the need to request new posts to address the soundboards. When do you expect that will be satisfied?
Yeah, I mean, they knew when they went to pick up materials, because they were supposed to be here last Monday. When they went to pick up the supplies, the mesh was all there. The posts were there, but the post for the 10-foot and the 8-foot that has the sound barriers, they knew that had to be the thicker ones. And what they had to be given were the thinner. And so they knew that, so they had to go back and get the right post. So this has always been the contract. So, I mean, they knew it when the supplier gave them this stuff. They said, wait a minute, these aren't the right posts.
I just have two really small ones. The landscaping that's going in, does that include, I don't remember, and I usually bring all my files, but there are too many now. Is it gonna be, are pitch uppers included in the landscaping?
We use the cocoa.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, the cocoa palm. It's gonna go along the west side, and then partially along the north, and then it's going to angle back and kind of tie into the rest of the stuff. And that also includes, I think that we had a couple magnolias. So that's what that, and then also they're gonna be putting in the root barrier.
Right. And I forget, is there signage that's planned to go in or a signpost that's planned to go in that's going to state, you know, the hours? I'm just curious how we're posting the hours. I don't remember, maybe you do remember, Ernest. Maybe we haven't addressed it, okay.
We will probably address it.
I see, okay, I was just curious.
Racket sports.
Yeah, that was like part of what I had done, but the
Racket address.
Got it. And then just another quickie. So I was surprised the sidewalk went in because I think there's going to be more heavy equipment there, isn't there? I'm just worried that there's not. I was thinking equipment might break up the sidewalk.
No, when they do all their surface treatment, they basically wheelbarrow stuff in. There's like 50-gallon drums. They come in and they pour it out off of that. So yeah.
Got it.
Okay, next thing, we had a depression on Remedy, and I think it was almost 2 months that we had been calling the county. We had a vendor come out to look at that, and they called in for locates. We wanted to see if there's possibly a utility across the road. Whenever you have a depression, the material's going somewhere. It just doesn't disappear. So it typically goes into a gravity system. And the gravity systems we have are the storm and the sewer. And sometimes if there's conduits, they have like a 4-inch conduit, and they may have a 1-inch pipe that goes through. So if that conduit got split, it could fill up the voids within that, which we've had happen. But we had them paint up, and there's the only thing out there is the sewer. So we're confident that this problem is the county. Keith called multiple times. They left the tickets, and we just could not get them to come out. So what we ended up doing, we had the vendor that we utilized. He was out there, and he cut through the middle of the depression, and he probed and probed and probed, and it was solid. And he poured water in that, and it's kind of stayed. So we ended up, instead of waiting for the county, and what else he had done is he took the camera in the pipe, and he ran it up about the same dimension from the manhole to where the depression is, and there is some sediment in there. We still believe it's a county issue, but we went ahead and we fixed the road because we just couldn't get the county to come out. What the county could do at that pipe, and it's like 8 foot deep. So if there is a problem with that, they could patch that from the inside. They have a little robot that could go up there and could patch that. So don't believe that they're going to have to cut that road, because we probed and probed and it was hard. So
You said that was water conduit, or what kind of conduit?
it's a sewer.
Sewer conduit.
Sewer.
So that's why it's county, okay.
Correct. So that's the status of that one. We did have a trip and fall, the incident probably a month and a half ago. We had it painted up. It was very minor, but still we painted up. They come out, they grinded that. The next time I come out to look at these, we have a whole lot of the areas where I had them grind multiple times. And now we've got kind of ramps. So I think this next time I come out, I'm going to have more of a remove and replace and cut the roots. Basically along Passaro, the golf club, that's I believe that's the worst area that we have out here. I've been pushing the guy for the Portofino paving the manholes. He said he has the paver coming in this week because he has to rent that. So he backs up some projects. So It's supposed to be this week for the areas that there. The roadway repairs, been working with the finance committee, and when they had done that rejuvenation, what we did is we pushed the budgets back. So our next funding cycle is this coming budget cycle. So that's when we're going to go ahead, and I've got 2 or 3 roads, and that the cul-de-sac that is out there, Dorleen.
Torcello?
Right.
Torcello.
Back here, right.
Yeah.
So it's minor, but that should be coming up in this budget cycle. And then the lady here on the lens loop, I had been out there. Keith and I met out there. I've been out there a couple times. Her lot, there's a pinch point right behind their lot. And it's where the mowers have one path to go through. And it appears to be kind of rutted out. The encroachment from the buffer, it continued to come up and out. Ryan met with us out there, and he was working to try to cut some of that back. So if we kind of cut some of that back, I don't see erosion coming from the wetland at all. I've been out there to look at that. It appears to me it's basically the rutting from the mowers. And then also I spoke to your husband and talked to him about the drainage from the property. If it's the issues coming from the resident, then it's a resident issue. If it's coming from the lakes or the lake banks, then it's a CDD. So I tried to explain that. So there's an opportunity for them to redirect some of their downspouts toward the areas, because there's one spot, it does appear to be coming right down the edge of the pool. And again, there's really no threat of your pool falling in. Rest assured that that's not going to happen.
I wish I had a photo of last year versus this year, because the sinking, the slope is dramatically,
Well, we're looking at that, and
Yeah, we have trees coming out the side of our house, to the side yard, quite a bit going out.
Greg,
But there's not ours.
is there an option for the homeowner to do something not in the wetlands, but along the edge, to put some rock down or something that would?
As long as it's on their property. What I mentioned to your husband was they could put like the decorative stone right on the property line and have like a 1 foot drop off, and that would definitely help make it look good. But again, that's going to make it very, very tough for the mowers to get from one side to the other.
So you're talking about decorative stone, not a fence?
Correct. No.
Okay, I thought maybe there was a misunderstanding.
Because I saw the fence reference, and no, what we didn't talk about fence. Yeah, just a little decorative, little wall kind of thing. But the key to me was make sure that the downspouts get redirected.
I think they've done that.
We've done that.
Okay, because one of the downspouts if you're looking at the house to the
It's hard for
left.
us to do when we've got 14.5 feet. 4.5 feet are ours, and then 10 feet yours. How do we just deal with 4.5 feet versus your 10 feet?
Well,
Right,
the
one
property
influences
belongs
the
to
other.
you.
Pardon me?
The property belongs to you, belongs to you.
Right.
The CD has the easement where they could utilize it, but the property still belongs to you. So as long as you get with the ARC or whatever, they could approve a lot of stuff on your property. But we'll continue to monitor that, because if we could clean up the area, at least get it wide enough that the mower can
Oh, it's wide enough now.
multiple paths through, then we're not going to get the rutting. And if we do have some of that, maybe we could just throw dirt in to kind of level that up.
I have a couple of questions, though. My understanding is we have fixed problems like this in the past. For example, on Verona Court, former supervisor, we did a fix for some erosion there. I don't know whether it's the same thing, but one of the concerns I have is that if we have created fixes on easements in the past, you know, aren't we under some obligation to continue to fix easements? I visited both the Smith's property and I visited the property that was discussed last December. And I will tell you a concern I have is the property that we discussed last December, which is at the very tippy top of Paduva. That erosion actually did damage the pool retaining wall. It's very similar in how it's situated in a cul-de-sac, where the land has collapsed. So, you know, it's a real concern I have, especially because we've done work in the past.
Typically, if the erosion, if the source is coming from the residents, then it's a resident issue. We really can't fix, put the Band-Aid without fixing the source. So if the source is a resident issue, we need them to help out to do what needs to be done. If the erosion did extend onto CDD land, then, we could either try to get the resident to help out or we just did the work. The problem that you have is WCI had these, they tried to fit too much onto the product. And when you dig a pool, they keep the elevation higher. So instead of it being a more gradual slope, if you looked at the site when they originally did the development, before the houses, they had nice, smooth 4-to-1 slopes. And they built, especially down there, the CDD, they came back to the CDD and were requested additional land because the product they wanted to build would not fit on the footprint. And back then I said, well, to me, that's screaming, we're gonna have erosion issues because now you've pushed it back. So there's no very gradual, it's straight into the slopes. And that's what's happening down there in a few places. I'm monitoring that. I think we're gonna have to do some lake bank work around some of that, just around the corner from them. But yeah, if the erosion's caused by the lake or the pond, it's the CDD. If the erosion's coming from up above, and we look to the residents to help out.
So then one really final quick question. You mentioned at the December meeting, you mentioned the GeoWeb, so if a resident wanted to put GeoWeb in, they would be allowed to, because what you're saying is it's their property.
As long as they stayed on their property.
As long as they stay on their property, okay.
Typically, when you use a solution like that, you're coming onto the lake bank, which is CDD land. We don't want to encourage property owners to be on CDD land.
As long as it's on their property, they
it's
can
on
get
their property, we
I
can't
see.
stop, like Rick said, they need to get ARC or
Okay.
whatever other type of approvals they might need.
Okay, that's helpful.
And that's definitely a possibility there because it is just a pinch point. Because once you get past that, it widens out on both sides. So just
Yes.
that one little spot is
Yes.
the pinch.
That's really helpful, Rick, thank you.
Okay, and the last thing, I don't know if I need to say anything, is the Bella Vista, the wetland mitigation. Is there anything happening with that? There was some concerns of the Bella Vista on the west side up against the power lines. The wetland, the area it's wild. But that is a wetland mitigation area. The storm box that is out there, I went out there to look, it's operating as designed, but the cattails just took over. There are some exotics that we can control that, but I mean, wetland, we really need to leave them alone if they're beneficial. If they're plugging up the drainage, we're allowed to do what needs to be done. But this
Solitude doesn't manage that for us, that area. It's not part of their contract.
Should it be?
It should.
That guy, are you still like that?
Cool.
Mr. Pop.
And that's all I had.
I have a question, unrelated. I know you'll be leaving, so I wanted to ask this as well. We're going to be discussing the Saltadella entrance exit. From an engineering standpoint, are there any issues have you had a chance to think about that or look at that area? And if we do go two ways, any potential issues we should be considering?
I've not really looked at that. I just heard today some of the thoughts with that. So I haven't really looked into that, but I'd be happy to.
Okay, to me, some of the issues are going to be sound and light buffering. If there's a lot more traffic there, there's houses just across a small pond on that end of Savona that are gonna be facing or hearing and seeing more lights, traffic and so on. The width, I assume the width of that road is standard.
Yes.
But because I know they talked about, it's gonna be, to me, it's gonna be fairly narrow going back and forth there. And they did talk about putting a fence, a median in the middle to separate the lanes. But I can see that being a potential issue.
There's a 50-foot right-of-way and the pavement is 24. So there is 11 feet behind the curve. So if they did want to try to modify that, it is still the CDD lands. They could do that.
Could be widened.
Correct.
Of the sidewalk there too. Okay, just something for us to be thinking about. That was it, thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I had a bunch of things on that, but I think, Rick's got to go and we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, I just wanted to get his
Yeah,
opinion on it.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. I want to just ask quickly, so you mentioned the Reclamate thing. Are we done with them? Are they supposed to be doing any work on striping of areas around the crosswalks and?
No, they're done.
Okay.
And what they did when they were doing theirs is they were supposed to put down something over top of them.
Oh, that makes it
And then they
worse.
squeegee it off. But I did see when I was just out and about, I go out and look at your signage, striping, roads, sidewalks every year. And so we're probably about 2 months out. And some of your striping is going to be added on again for this time coming up, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Rick?
Still on.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Andy,
Rick.
Andy, do you have anything to report?
Good morning, everyone. We've got a couple of memos a little bit further down the agenda, so I'll be prepared to address those when we get to them. The only additional item I had, I'm not sure, there's a little bit of confusion whether it was for Andrew or E&D, but did receive an email over the weekend from the Venice Theater for people requesting an extension. The release is up October the 10th. They simply needed 2 extra days because there's a problem with pulling down the show that went before then. They can't get into the theater for a couple of days. So there was an email sent and the response being that we bring it before the board this morning. So I'll bring that up for discussion. The lease was set to end on October 10th, which is tomorrow. Now they're looking to end it on October the 12th.
Do you need a motion?
I think a motion would be appropriate.
I think I'm somewhat responsible for the confusion because when Mary sent that email asking for the 2 extra days, I suggested that she bring that to Andrew. And my reference should have been using a last name, and I didn't. So it wound up going on Andy Cohen's lap. But I believe that Andrew is aware of it as well, and I don't see a big problem giving them the 2 extra days.
I think that even though time is short, I think we should do just a quick 1-pager or something just to cover us so that if God forbid something were to happen on the 11th, it just says that we're still under all the same terms of the lease or whatever.
So you need a motion?
Okay, their insurance is still in place, past the date that they're asking for, I would.
Okay. Yeah, just a motion for extension of these, and then I'll prepare something this afternoon.
I would make that motion.
Any further discussion?
I have a question, Andrew, how has that been going? Is that the use of the evening created any issues around cleaning or?
Morning. No, at this point in time, it's been smooth. I really haven't heard of anything come back on us or wasn't getting accomplished or cleaned up or whatever.
Any further discussion?
Given that they're already in there, I don't think a few extra days is gonna matter.
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Okay. Like I said, we've got these other issues, but other than that, that's all I had. I'm glad to try and answer any questions though, if any board members have them.
Well, I guess when it comes to the use of the River Club by outside.
Do we want to address that now?
Yes,
or-
we want to get into it now?
No, let's follow.
Okay,
I'll still be here.
all right. No extra charge.
No extra.
Much to your delight. I have a tiny question.
Yes.
And I'm kind of stepping on Andrew Kale's toes. Andrew asked one of the first days he was here, and if I get asked a question, I don't know the answer, it keeps me up at night.
Wow.
Yeah, welcome to my poor husband's world. Is there a rule against hiring residents or residents' relatives? Like if, my granddaughter wanted to be a server, is there anything anywhere in our foundational documents that prohibits hiring such a person?
Well, there's a couple of things at issue there. I mean, if it was something that the board was approving, like let's say the board hired, let's say it was the general manager, because you approved the general manager.
Right.
Then we have to worry about anti-nepotism laws and conflicts and things along those lines. If it is Besta hiring someone to be a server, for instance, which is something the board does not get involved in, that would not trigger any of those types of issues. But sitting here right now, I don't know what we have in our contract or rules and regulations that addresses that. So if it's something you want me to look at, I can.
I was just asking, so I think I'll defer to Andrew. If he's got
I don't think there's anything in the Besta contract. That's,
No, I don't think there is either.
Yeah, as to our rules and regulations or the River Club declaration, I'd have to take a quick look.
What was that going to cost us?
Sure.
We don't need.
That's all I got is my time, sorry.
This is true.
With the opportunity of staffing in this area, it would definitely give us another option. So if the option's open, then we would definitely see what's out there.
It's up to you, board members.
I just want to add something to that. A few years ago, we did have the child of a resident working at the River Club.
Oh.
So we do have some past history of allowing that.
But it causes problems, okay, as it relates to, say, members of the CDD, family members being employed here, as well as others.
It does.
It's just a multiplicity of problems. I've seen.
Just because it's legally allowed or there's nothing in our documents prohibiting it, there's still, as you said, political and practical type
It's
issues.
just- I've seen those lawsuits, so, you need to stay away from it unless it's absolutely necessary. And I don't see it.
Okay. So I think that's the direction for the moment. Stay away from that unless it needs to be revisited. And you just save some money, so it's not need to research.
Well done.
Any other questions? And I will address all the questions with regards to our memos as we come down to the agenda. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Andrew, do you have anything to report?
Just, no, I'm sorry. Just was going over the numbers for the month of August. Sills, basically, we're going in a positive direction. We're up about 10,600 in revenue and up about 5,850 in revenue for the plan versus plan, which is 19.2%. So year to date, we're pretty much flat across the board. Food cost of sales ran 48.49 versus plan of 50.50. So pretty much flat there, a little bit down. Year to date, we're at, well, this month was at 57.88 versus plan of 50.50, so definitely opportunity. Moving on, liquor, beer, wine as a group is kind of a fluke month because of number error. We ran as a group, cost of sales 57.35 versus 35.38 plan. Year to date, we're at 31.52 cost of sales for liquor, beer, wine. Overall, we cost of sales were at 19,694, which is positive 6,476, even though and for negative, like I said, up 49%. So not good, not in the best direction. Definitely got opportunity. Year to date, 50,000 up and 14% up. So we definitely got some opportunities. Moving on to, I guess, salaries, benefits, 58 versus budget of 56,304. So we're up a little bit over 19,304. Year to date, 572. We're quite a bit over. We're at 764 versus 748, 14,000, 2% over. So again, temps, even though we've lowered the temp service hours, which we have tremendously in the last, we still have opportunities with full-time employees because we have to get those minimum hours required to keep them employed and go from there. And if you don't have any full-time employees, we wouldn't be able to retain anybody with very little sales. Maintenance, 2129 versus plan of 2252, so pretty much flat there. Year to date, it's 26219. I'm sorry, 14519 versus 26219 the previous year. Overall, 13 or under 13,129. So pretty solid there. It's in line. That's kind of all I have on there.
Any questions?
I've talked to Andrew, and we're still bouncing all over the place on cost of sales. And I know part of the issue, as he explained to me, is the timing of receipt of invoices, and that's a factor. I don't know how to get around that. In most businesses I've been involved in, we know there's an invoice coming, we accrue for it. And that gets the cost in the current period where you'd expect it to be, as opposed to booking it a month later or 6 weeks later, and an invoice shows up, and it just distorts everything you're looking at. So I don't know how we get around that, but it's every month there's ups and downs that just don't make any sense, other than there's costs missing or timing of previous month's costs that come in. I don't know that if there's a way to level this off, but it makes it very difficult to understand, the whole process until you get, like now, we get to the end of the year, I mean, what happens in September is year end. We don't have, do we keep the books open a little longer to get invoices in? And
I just want to note
so stuff's
September.
gonna show up in October in the new budget year that, you know.
September, the cost for the group liquor, beer, wine is at 3122. So it come in much better in September with the prelims, and foods at 60.
Because there was a big credit, you know, in the month apparently in beer. I don't understand.
Yeah, it was kind of a
But
bounce back.
wine cost of sales was almost 70%, which is crazy. So I just get frustrated. You know, food was only 48% versus 55% year to date. So the stuff is just bouncing all over the place. And I thought after some number of months, it would start to level off. Because we were told, well, it was a bad inventory, or, you know, we didn't have enough staff, or there's always something. And now it's invoices show up. So I don't know how we get a handle on that, but very difficult to run a business. And we are running a business. And now getting into new budget year, and my concern is, as a company, Besta has again said we can manage to a certain margin and profitability or you know, smaller loss. And we talked about it during the budget cycle about how realistic it is. And we kept hearing we can manage to it. So, you know, here we are now in October, first month of a new fiscal year. And I'm concerned that this problem is still, with inventory, is still going on.
You do have it's a great concern. I'm not denying that at all. It really will tie myself to get more involved with the actual inventory itself.
Do we accrue?
Yes.
For costs and every cycle. So you have open purchase orders. You know whether you receive the goods or not.
That's correct.
And generally, if you receive the goods, you accrue for the anticipated invoice. And I don't know if that's happening, but apparently it isn't, if we're still getting invoices after the fact and then booking them for the first time.
Yeah, I think that I learned a valuable lesson this month because of the way things hit at the end of the month, and it's through September, just in reference to how things were coming in and how they were being reported. Now, I thoroughly understand that, and definitely the goal for me now is just to continue to focus on the inventories themselves.
Linda, can we accrue invoices, or are we on a cash basis?
We only accrue for utilities on our end.
For what?
For utilities and insurance. I'm not sure how they, county-wise, whether or not they do accrue. I would think that they do accrue for utilities and certain contracts that they would need to accrue for.
Okay.
But
there's nothing to prevent them from accruing for invoice, for purchase orders, goods received, but invoice not received yet.
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, but once the fiscal year is closed, we have 60 days from the end of the fiscal year to amend the budget if we're going to be over budget, which we've known for a while that we are.
Yeah.
So I'm concerned because the River Club budget's going to have to be amended, and if we don't know the exact amount and we don't amend the budget correctly, what will happen is we will have a ding in the audit because the auditor will say that it was not amended as appropriately. So this is, I guess, you would need to have a discussion with Dan and the accounting team at this point and come up with a number that is the right number that we would need to use so that you can amend the fiscal year budget correctly so that it doesn't come back as an audit ding.
We only have 60 days after the end of the fiscal year, so time's ticking.
So it's 60 days from the last day of September because the new fiscal year began October 1st.
So I would certainly review any open purchase orders, try to get them accrued for September close. we have to power wash the roof? When was the last time that was done?
A conversation I had earlier with Jill.
Troublemaker.
Well, I also do power.
I wasn't aware of the schedule that it was on, or if there was a schedule at all. But the discussion was, I talked to earlier with Keith in reference to possible company opportunities, and he had mentioned immaculate conception or exception, whatever it is, exterior exceptions or exterior.
That's a different.
You're right.
That's a different conversation.
Is a solid company in the area and would be.
I know we've used them for sidewalk.
We'll get some bids that and find out what the deal is to get that.
Maybe I can just add a little bit to that. We had a roofing company, we'll talk about this a little bit more later in the facilities item. But we have a contract with a company that comes semi-annually to look at the roof, and they can do minor repairs. And there's actually a section of roof that they missed where some repairs need to be made, and we're having a challenge getting it back. Everybody's having a challenge with roofers. I mean, until we get that done, it's probably not a great idea to wash the roof because we've got some gaps. Here's some amazing drone pictures of the roof, both from the roofer and also from one of the guys in the facilities committee whose son-in-law has a drone. So it's being looked at. We'll talk about that a little bit more later.
Any other questions for Andrew?
Oh, I have a question. I know we have somewhat of a parade of food trucks out there during the course of the week. Do we get any type of rental or fees back from these trucks that come through here and make money?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
I know most, say, public entities usually charge a fee if you provide that service for the residents. It could be competing with our ability to earn money in our restaurants. So I think we need to investigate and charge a fee because it's like a daily basis up there. You come up and you see the trucks up here.
It's a service. I don't know.
It's
I
service
don't
to
know.
them.
I don't know if there other entities charge or not. We ought to look into that.
Yeah, Mondays and Tuesdays, obviously, there's a need.
Sometimes you see
Yeah, 'cause we don't serve
Friday,
lunch.
then you see
You don't
people,
have,
then you
just
see
so you
them
know.
out here on Fridays with the market and all. But, she should be a fee associated with this.
In theory, it would be great to charge them. However, even at our other communities, you don't have to guarantee them any revenue at all. So that, as long as we wouldn't do it when the restaurant was open, I mean, they typically, I'd be surprised, sometimes they're out at many developments. But you don't have to guarantee them any revenue. And unless, like a lot of the food trucks will say, unless you can guarantee me X amount in sales, I don't want to give you a cut, because normally it would be like a 10% cut. Like even if you had, any kind of service per se. So that's why there isn't a charge at this time. But we could check into it for sure.
Well, we need to look.
Yeah, look into it.
Yeah, we need to.
Kind of nickel and dime.
Well, I know the concert issues do it. So,
I have a quick question on that for Andy, though. One of the food trucks sells beer. Is that any kind of issue for our? Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the German food truck sells beer. And I was like, whoa, right?
Absolutely.
So they cannot sell beer.
Well, they need to make sure they've got the proper licensing and all of those types of things.
does that affect our license?
It may.
Oh, my God.
Liability.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that needs to be looked at.
All righty then.
See what?
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Always something.
Any other questions? Thank you, Andrew. Keith, do you have anything to report?
Not at this time, no.
Any questions for Keith?
Every day.
The tree looks good out there, your tree.
All right, so on my end, just a few quick updates, supervisors. We were assigned a new program delivery manager. This is the fourth from FEMA, yes. And I'm just being told that everything is under review, and I don't have any other updates at this time.
Belinda and I have talked about this in other districts. I'm not aware of any district that I work with that has either received enough or down. It's just, everything seems to be in limbo at the moment.
Rich, we are going to be sending you a request for a fund transfer for the general fund from the capital reserve. We are running low on funds, so we are going to have to move some funds around, so you'll have to give Dana direction to do that. I'll provide the board with those so that you're aware of the amounts that are being moved. And then once we receive tax funds back, we will be able to replenish that account.
Okay, no problem with that. This is in addition to the transfer I made last week at Vanessa's request.
Correct, and then I also received an email from the River Club for additional funds as well. So I will be sending that information to you from the River Club Reserve. That needs to go into their account so that they can pay one of their expenditures.
Is that the tennis related?
Yes,
cost?
yes.
Okay, no problem. I'll get in touch with Dave right away, and he's always very good about moving the money within a day or so.
Okay. And as we previously discussed, I'm going to be presenting the budget amendment to the board for consideration. It's a requirement. You'll send me a resolution for it.
Sure, which meeting you want to do it?
I think we should give them some time, so
November.
November 1st meeting.
Sure.
And then I'll send Dan an email as well, so that he knows what needs to be done for the River Club's budget amendment.
Okay,
Any questions for me?
They have some time yet.
They do. We're gonna present it first meeting for November. So they have this whole month to really look at the invoices and work on this so that they can prepare the amendment.
Can I go back to field manager?
Sure.
I must have dozed off. Sorry, Keith.
No worries.
Because we haven't met for so long and I haven't been able to ask you, or I haven't asked you, Laurel Road fence repair, was that ever done?
Other than what Dan and I repaired, no, it's still the city. And it's up to the city because that belongs to them. And so, but, you know, it's like getting a hold of, you know, the county to do something.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, you're down the list, or FP&L. We just finally took those down poles that were down. We just finally just ripped them out and cut them up and covered we put conduit over where the holes are and covered them so that, but trying to get them to come out.
Yeah.
You know, we got lights out there that are on, and we've called about, you know, come out and change out the photo cells, and it's, you know, pulling teeth is easier, but it's still a city project.
Any further consideration on the gate access software that we had looked at?
We've kind of just level out and, you know, trying to determine, you know, where we want it to be with how many guards, you know, that old timing thing. And then now that you're back, we can probably start changing that ball because it needs to happen.
Yeah.
But you and I can sit down and really start hashing that part of that out.
And if we're gonna do something on the back gate, tie it in.
Correct.
And then the same question, and I think he just said something about the getting the quote on the change in guard service for the night patrol we talked about.
Yeah, well, we
He
sent that.
keeps sending, like, he'll send 6 things at a time, and I can't tell which one is the one that we actually have to consider.
Well, I don't think that, I think the board's already made their opinion that they don't want to change in the evening patrol. They would still want 2 guards.
I don't think we have.
No, what I recall is, I'm sorry, what I recall is that because what they sent was so undecipherable at the time of the budget, that we just passed the full amount, but we were gonna look into what the quote would be if we went
Exactly.
to the single person in the Great Bear Ship.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, then I can put a.
We do want to follow up on it,
Yeah, okay.
but ask them to send one specific quote dealing with what we're asking them to consider.
You bet.
Because it's an opportunity for a fairly significant savings if we decide to do it. Yeah.
Good.
Thanks.
Can I go back to Belinda? It's a really quick question. So we've already done some landscape work, although the work was done in the last fiscal year. For example, at the front gate, which I think we're applying that to the assessment that really only takes effect in the general fund budget this fiscal year. Is that where that's gonna be, those bills will be applied there?
You mean the additional work that is being considered today, or what?
No, there was work that we approved. There were 4 things that we approved at the July meeting. It wasn't a ton of money. It was under $20,000. Work that we approved in July was done over the summer.
It falls into the general fund budget prior fiscal year, not this
Oh,
fiscal year.
it does?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So when I prepare the
Understood.
budget amendment, that will be most likely one of the line items that we are going to have to amend because of the cost.
Okay, all right.
We approved like $23,000 worth.
Oh, yeah, you're right, it was that much, because I know. the
4
front-
items.
Yep, there were 4 items, I remember that, yeah. Thank you.
We did provide the board with a copy of the second quarter website audit. This is just for your reference, but it was a clean audit. Before I move on, does anybody need a break? Do we?
Yes.
Okay, so can we take a 10-minute break? Okay, so we're gonna take a 10-minute break at 10:48 a.m. To item number 5A, Keith has informed me that Paul Savage is here from Envision. Do we want to move the discussion regarding the Citadel Gate up?
Sure.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Universal Access, I said Envision. So we are going to start with item number 5E, which is the consideration of the Universal Access quote for the rear gate access project. This is behind tab number 7 for your review.
So a little background. When the conversation started to come about, what's going across the street off Laurel Road and Laurel Road getting busier and busier, I was approached by a few about the back gate. And so I just decided, well, let's try to move some things forward here and just be proactive and get Paul on board to see what can happen out there and his vision of the in and out of that and opening that up for the residents. Okay. Didn't talk to Rick about it, about the engineering side of things. Just wanted to see what kind of money would be involved. Okay. So where did Paul go? He was sitting back there. I think I scared him off.
Okay.
But, so, any questions, I had him come in so he could, talk about, what actually is gonna happen out there when and if you all decide.
He's here.
There he is. All right. Paul Savage with Universal. Paul, if you want to come on up and just give us a little brief about that, what your vision was of that back gate.
Yep. Okay. Good morning, everybody. So Keith had asked me to look at the rear gate as making it accessible for both directions. So we kind of put something together. This was, mainly budgetary because nobody's saying we want it to look like this or want it to look like that. I'm sure everything would fit into these costs. So the idea is that the way we looked at it is why you would want it is as they build out down here, it's going to get a lot of traffic right in front of the main entrance. So you're going to have it coming in from all directions. It gives the option of somebody coming in that doesn't have to make that left-hand turn, possibly with the traffic there, can go on past the fire department. There won't be anybody down there. They can turn in. So it could take care of some traffic that way, alleviate a lot of the traffic during high times in the resident entry lanes. So really all we're proposing to do is, and this came up heavily, remember, after the hurricane, that all took heavy damage. Most of it doesn't even work down there anymore. We're just keeping it kind of band-aided till a decision's made on what we can do with it. And so the idea is just mainly remove everything but the fence sections and then reset new magnetic operators, barrier arm only, that matches what you have up front. So the same kind of high-speed barrier arms, looks-wise, and everything that way. And then it would have a section of barrier fence in between to make up the difference of making those 12-foot lanes, just like at the front. No, nothing real different that way. In that, we would install the AWID reader system that you already have existing for the front gate. We just have a reader back there that would communicate with existing systems to open that as an entry gate. And then also still keeping it for emergency access for police, fire, and rescue. In our proposal, we're pretty much providing everything unless there is the possibility that you want to build some type of median to divide that in any kind of different way. We've got it planned, just it's a small section of fence in between that. So if you have any questions.
And I am pricing a welcome home sign to go on the one when you come in.
You got it.
Paul, my own opinion is I think at some point we are going to have to do something. we're gonna have to make it two-way.
And
So, go ahead.
while you're saying on that, just remember that at some point, if we don't do it, we will have to spend some money back there anyway. So we were trying to keep band-aiding to get there. But go ahead.
That's fine. One thing I think we as a board need to consider, and I'm gonna throw this out so you can be thinking about it as well. Right now, we have the iron swing gates. Will those remain? Can they remain? You said, you shook your head no,
okay.
for the record. So can they remain?
So yes, they can remain. They don't work. Well, the exit side does not work anymore. That was involved in the flood. It went underwater. So that would all have to be put back
But it's
together.
fixable.
But it is fixable. You could have both swing gates back in operation as an entry and exit back there with barrier arms. So you would not want to put it as an entrance without barrier arm.
Sure.
Okay, just to do what happens with traffic. Yes, there's no reason it can't all be put back together with the swing gates too.
Because I'm thinking about security. I'm thinking about residents who live along that end of Savona Way. And we would need to do more buffering along the pond there, which doesn't affect you. But one thought I had was, while we want to make this two-way during the heavy traffic periods, from a security standpoint, I'm thinking close the iron gates, and only have the arms working from like 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then close the gates, the other hours. So you don't have anybody at night trying to get in that way or whatever, just from a security standpoint and safety. So that's the reason I brought that up.
Yeah, at other Island Walk, for example, the side gate, they call it their back gate. It has gates that shut at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, open at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and then those are closed. So yes, you could do that.
Okay, so from your standpoint, that's something to consider. If the board goes along with that, then obviously we need a cost of fixing the gates. And would you set it up any differently? Would the arms have to be in a different position so that obviously the gates can open and close?
One would stay the same. If we left the existing gates where they're at, we would keep the exit gate, okay, there. There is no barrier arm to the entrance at all anyway. That has been an emergency type gate, which honestly has been the problem. It's failed every single inspection because it's never used, and then it sits there for 3 months and doesn't open when they do try to use it. It's been a kind of a problem, but we could put it back in that same sense of order. Now, as far as proving out the security help of having the gate there, we have found from tons of video evidence, they just wait till the gate's open. So a gate this high, they're just waiting for the gates to open. So they'll tag somebody, follow somebody, and that type of thing. So from an added security point, I don't know it does as much as you would like it to do. We want to have our cameras there. We want
I'm thinking at night. And
yeah, well, we want the guards to be able to see the cameras and that type of stuff. This seems to be, you guys still have a roamer, which is nice, when we're having problems with that back gate.
You talked about help me understand the separation you're talking about between the lanes coming through.
Right. So what we would set it up with is there'd be a barrier arm on each side. If we're scrapping out the swing gates, which was my plan, because it's just less maintenance on you over time and everything else that way, is to put the two barrier arms up. Give that distance, we'll give that about 13, 14 feet on each side. And then whatever is left, we'll build something substantially looking like fence that would match the other stuff in the middle of those two barrier arms. I would like to aesthetically make it so the barrier arms line up with each other. Okay. Instead of doing a jog with a piece of fence and offsetting them and everything else, we have to be careful what we do with that bench section because at some point somebody's going to hit it. It will happen. So we want to make it so it's not something that's, elaborately and cost to fix if it does get hit. So we're thinking, some large 6x6 aluminum posts sitting between that, a nice top and aluminum between it.
At the same time, as you know, people hit the gate, the arms. And when that happens by the gatehouse, you've got somebody there to still monitor who comes in and goes out. If it happens in the back where there is no guard patrol, on a regular basis, that's another reason to me to have the swing gate available so that if the arm is gone, you can actually shut that down for a period of a day or two while it gets fixed. So again, that's part of because if the arm's gone, anybody can come in anytime. And I realize there's a camera there, but you're not looking at it 24/7.
The existing exits there gets knocked off, and the guards usually will just go up and set cones and cone it off instead of doing any type of thing to it. But yeah, I mean, it's all up to the board and what they would like to have. Just all options are available.
Well, it just seems like it's a larger discussion than just approving. This
Right. This was budgetary to me.
Yeah.
This was to say, okay, here it is. This is what it would cost to do something back there. And then I think we need to plan on what it really is, this covers all the electronics and everything we need as far as reading tags and everything else. And understand that the barriers that we use at your front gates are finally better, but we're 5-6 weeks out on getting those even at order time. So it's not a fast turnaround.
And to repair the swing gates, can you like an order of magnitude?
If we're going back to swing gates are going to operate inside of with barrier arms, we probably have about $10,000 of work that's going to need to be done. That's at the high side. I think less, but I'm just going to be safe standing here and say up to $10,000. And like I said, everything there was heavily damaged. Everything that's inside the barrier arm that's the only thing really working is a bunch of parts we drug out of everything to put it back together right after the storm because we just didn't want to put a lot of money in it, knowing that they wanted to plan something different.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
I think we need to do more, our due diligence on this. We don't have the backup or the data to figure out how many of our residents will be using this gate, or is it just a few? So we need to do our due diligence as it relates to this. I know that there is ongoing population growth outside of our gate. And it's clearly within the next 3 or 4 years, several thousand new residents will be located out there. Some of these will be rental, and we will probably start getting urban problems, for lack of a better word. We need to have a well thought out plan how we address another gate. I think the county is proposed to expand it. We have the shopping mall across the street. We don't know what's going to happen really over there, but possibly we need to negotiate with some of the players as it relates to offsetting the costs associated with having another gate that has access in and out. So this is premature, I think, this whole process. And we should just rethink it probably 6 months from now when we actually know what's going to go outside.
Well, we know the widening of Laurel is going to start first quarter of '24. That's the latest I read in the paper.
Well,
so we know that's going to happen. We know the county has already approved a light for the intersection of Jacaranda and Laurel. So we know those things are going to happen. What happens with the potential shopping plaza, I agree that's probably a couple of years away or more or less. but it just seems like with the growth plan for the area, and we know the thousands of homes that are gonna be built, there's just gonna be more traffic from Jackson and Laurel. So we're gonna, it's just something we have to deal with. So I agree, we need to be prepared for it, but I wouldn't put it off for 6 months.
Well, who is this going to service? Probably a 25% of this community, as opposed to
your wife.
Well, Amazon takes care of problems.
I think it's a lot more people than you might think. We'll see. But I wanted to ask Paul, because I have a bunch of things that I have questions about with the gate that I'm sure fall outside your purview, but is there, and there are so many things, like for example, I'm thinking, do we need city approval, you know, depending on what we're gonna do, et cetera.
No.
Okay. Is there an engineering specialist that one would go to try to make sure we're addressing all the potential things we can do? For example, if we're concerned about piggybacking, right, coming through the lift gate, can we put speed bumps in strategic places? And is that something you know about, or is there sort of a broader, you know, gate specialist consultant that we should be thinking about?
Okay, so I'll comment on the city thing first. As long as we do not change the physical gates that were previously approved in the sense that we are making large changes, and their one and only thing they're going to ask for is that the gates work for emergency vehicles. When I do permitting, that's all they care about. They don't even inspect my electric anymore. They come over and go, okay, it works for emergency vehicles, and they walk away. They seem like that's their biggest concern in the world. So as long as we continue with that, and as far as state-wise, the gates already exist over 80 feet from the roadway, so we're clear on that, and so we're existing. We don't even have to re-permit because everything is existing. All we're doing is changing the way the operation is on one gate as far as inflow over being fixed. Speed bumps, Island Walk, I don't know if any of you ever been down there, has spent an absorbent amount of money this year trying to solve all of the gate incidents and everything else. Now, I guess something like what you have here, they have these high-speed ways for people to get to the gatehouse. Instead of turning off the road and the gatehouse exists, you know, really close to the road, you've got long running lanes into all gates. So they had some of the same things. So they put speed bumps in. They put speed bumps in to keep people from bumping the gate. That's the barrier arms kept getting bumped. They would pull up and they would just bump the gate, and there's the gate arm on the ground, and put them back up. So their speed bumps helped with slowing the traffic down. But we have found with the dual operation of the swing gate and barrier arms are getting hit at a high rate. Even though they're lighted and the aluminum gates are behind it, what is happening, and we're not sure even how to correct the problem, is they pull up to the barrier arm, the swing gates are slowly opening, and they're edging forward. And then at some point, they think the swing gates have opened, it's time to go, and then they run over the arm. So it becomes a very expensive hit. This seems to be the newest happening that we're finding in that type of situation. So, you know, we're moving the times to later at night, so there's less traffic on the swing gates at those points and things like that. But that's the problem we have. We do like the speed humps. I've stated down here at your exit would be a great place for speed humps because people come through there at a very high rate of speed. When we're working down there, it's pretty scary how fast people come in. But as far as that back gate situation, I guess the advantage is you're maintaining it anyway. Why not make it usable? Because you have to have those gates anyway. So you have to have that exit gate there. All you're doing is taking and making it an entrance gate and adding a reader to it. So, you know, this is just, to me, giving that option that you're already maintaining.
Well, I'm more concerned about the security aspects of it. it's unmanned. Cameras, that's good to have cameras there, but, is there any way you can have the gates that actually close, they come together, so it would negate the car from banging and knocking it down?
You could put catch arms on barrier arms, and you can put magnetic locks on swing gates to stop them from being as easily openable. But hit at a high rate of speed, things just blow apart anyways. It's aluminum. I mean, it just depends on which part you're looking at. Understand that right now, the swing gate on the exit does not close. It's been open for a year. So your security is a barrier arm that anybody can walk around.
That's true.
Okay, anybody can drive up there, and if they know it, if you hit that barrier arm, it's plastic nuts, hold it on, you're in.
I've seen people walk through.
Yeah,
this
you can,
neighborhood in the back.
you can walk through that.
I just think we need to put some thought into this. And we will have probably 3,000 or 4,000 new residents outside the gate in the next 2 years. And this shouldn't be just for current shopping access. We need to just put more thought into this. And again, we are a soft target. People can walk right through that gate, and at night, there's a it's an attractive nuisance for people outside to come in. And the population will change eventually. And we need to take appropriate steps to protect property and life. It's a lot, huh?
Can only do so much.
How do we get to the next, other than putting this on the agenda again, because I guess you're like the security guy, right? Along with being the pond guy, do we?
Is it something your facilities committee?
Yeah, I would think the facility.
Oh, we could, we could. But I think it's more, is it front gate? I don't know, I just think there are a lot of questions I think that we have to address.
I'm happy to take the lead in that.
Okay, could we send a question?
If I could add, I think that we need a broader discussion, as was suggested, to really consider what we're trying to accomplish back there.
Yes.
If it's, it can be simple or it can be more extravagant, but I think we have to start with what is it we're trying to do, and then look at the alternatives. And I think Ken taking the lead is a great idea.
Easiest way to get my own way.
Okay.
I got the lead, so
why don't we-
Whatever that is.
So next meeting, I guess, right?
I'll meet with my field manager.
I just think we need a security expert or some kind of consultant involved as well, be it the Venice Police Department, be it someone else.
I mean, you can speak to Rick. I know for a fact that Rick has some knowledge about these things, working out at Waterley, because, they're expanding the Fort Hammer Bridge there, and they're reconfiguring the back gate there, so he may be of some assistance.
That's why I questioned him early on, but I will follow up with him. I'm happy to visit a couple of other communities, see what they're doing, why.
Look at Island Walk. The Island Walk back gate would definitely be something to look at. That is an exact match to what you have. They have more of an entrance and exit lane, but definitely they are the closest I could say around here for what you're doing. Venice Isles down in Venice, they have a problem. And we use barrier arms there with entrance and exit on their side roads. For the fact it's just stopping people from coming through to use it as a cut through, so.
A lot of times there's a box there, and you've got to either put in a code or you press
Right.
a button and you speak to the guard up front to say, I'm looking for access, here's my address or ID or whatever.
I think definitely if I was gonna do something at the back gate, one thing that would make things better is lighting. That's the darkest spot, I think, on the property is back there. You know, when you're back there at night, it's really, really dark. You've got,
And there's another issue, because you've got, you know, as they continue to build out, in Vicenza, we're gonna get more and more people barreling up, we don't have line of sight. I think there are a lot of issues that are outside the, sort of the scope, if you will, of what you're gonna be installing.
right.
Back to Cheryl's point.
You know, when you switch over to the security side, from our experience is, you know, lighting.
Yep.
Cameras. And understand, cameras only deter, but you have guards. So if those guards remain 24/7, then they could be, they watch that back gate a lot. Okay, so I get the phone calls in the middle of the night saying, hey, the arm's been knocked off, you know, and everything else, because the guards do call us. You know, so they do watch that back gate pretty well. I will say, because definitely they complain right away that the arm is down. So
My concern is also pedestrian access. Okay, go right up, drop bad guys off, walk right through, and then our people are concerned that live over that area. It's happening. Maybe because I'm from the Northeast, I'm used to seeing it, but it's coming this way.
I'm glad you both from Jersey.
It seems to me that we're gonna need more discussion on this item.
Yes.
And no decision is gonna be made on it today. So perhaps it should be temporarily tabled for right now so that we can discuss it further.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you a lot, Paul.
Keith, do you have
Paul.
the Supervisors, we do have representatives from LMP here, so we want to cover item number 5J next, which is the discussion and consideration of the LMP proposal for the parking lot plans. This is behind tab number 10 for your review. Cheryl, do you want to touch on this?
Yes, so at the last in-person meeting, we talked about a proposal for the parking lot, to remove all of the dead, bushes that are there, sorted bushes and everything else, and to put in the pitch apple hedgerow. If you remember, when we did this last time, we had two bids. One was for 30-gallon pitch apples for $154,000, and one was for 15-gallon pitch apples for $73,000. The board asked that we go back and get another bid. We did that with Troy's Tropics. Troy's Tropics bid came in at about $22,000, but the difference was that they were requiring a lot fewer plantings. And so we went back and asked LMP to provide us with a map, and we figured out we were really comparing apples and oranges. And so what we're talking about are the side of the parking lot that borders the pond, and then the back side of the parking lot that borders Benito. And so for those areas, we really only need about 120 plantings. And so the bid you have in front of you, we also talked at length in landscape with LMP about 15 versus 30 gallon. And you heard from John Felberg earlier, 15 gallons will grow in about a year to be the size of the 30 gallons. And so we are recommending going with the 15-gallon pitch apple heads around the parking lot. And the cost of that, as you can see, is about $22,000, $22,700, I think. So that is the proposal. Happy to answer any questions, or happy to have LMP answer any questions.
Cheryl, I have a question. We're talking about that area along the west side of the parking lot.
Is
that correct?
Correct.
Let's see. Yes, the west side and the south side.
And the south side. Now, LMP has previously done plantings there, none of which have thrived. And is there some consideration for the fact that previous work that has been done has not been successful?
We have talked with LMP about that, and so I don't know who's there. Is Bill there or Ryan?
Yeah.
Could one of you speak to that?
Yeah, so, I mean, there was a ton of irrigation issues in the parking lot.
She may not be able to hear you.
Yes. Yeah, so there was a ton of irrigation issues that we've experienced in the parking lot, ever really since those plants got put in the ground. That's really the main reason why those plants failed. Since we got everything working there again, you can actually see some of those plants coming back. That's because they're getting adequate water, and obviously, we'll be monitoring everything, but we have zero doubt that these plants will be successful.
Okay.
Just a quick question on, so I think if I understand Cheryl or Ryan, so it's from, like, if you walk through to the boardwalk along the pond and then sort of around the curve to the sidewalk? Is that sort of like a J shape, right?
Yeah.
So it's about
J or L.
350, 360 feet, right? So that's 3 plants or
a
a plant every 3 feet.
Yes.
That's not too crowded?
No, that's the standard planting
Okay.
distance is about 3 feet. And that's so that they can eventually grow together to, form a nice hedge.
Okay. Somebody expressed a concern about putting the plants there versus putting them in the medians because of the gators that come out of that pond. It would sort of create a screen, that if you're walking by, with your dog or something, you couldn't see, the gator on the other side of the pitch apple. So just thinking.
Yeah, I mean, there's wildlife issues. I mean, it's always going to be a thing, whether they're planted here or there. But yeah, I just don't think you're really going to have much of an issue with the plants being there. That's definitely the best place for them.
Okay.
And you feel confident that these plants will grow in that environment over there?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, you know what my next question is? Can you give us a guarantee, a 2-year guarantee that in the event they fail, you will replace them at no cost to this community?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, 3 years now.
Gotta go higher.
Yeah, okay.
I thought anything that LMP planted was guaranteed for life. Has that changed?
As long as they're maintaining it.
as they're maintaining it.
Is it?
As long as they're maintaining it. So if they continue as our maintenance company, we have a guarantee for as long as they're here, correct?
Yep.
The estimate
Now,
does
I
say
didn't
1
get-
year on it, though.
Yeah, 1 year on it.
Okay, I asked a question about some consideration for everything that has been planted and the money that we spend, that where nothing has thrived, and John Fowler has commented about that, John Thorberg has commented about that. I didn't get a clear answer on some consideration. Is there none?
Well, if they're guaranteed for life, why wouldn't they replace them?
Yeah, hi, Rocco, this is Chris, the branch manager. So since the planting of that, we've also had a hurricane and multiple irrigation issues that have occurred specifically around the clubhouse and do with wire. So it took multiple occasions in order to repair that irrigation. For what is existing out there and is planted is thriving. You've lost some plants. We did warranty replace them one time already, but again, you ran into some irrigation issues due to the hurricane, and those plants have not been replaced. But if you go out there, you'll see multiple viburnum that were installed that are thriving. Again, they went in at 3 gallon in an area that is shaded, and so your growth is much slower. Being that you guys are going in with 15-gallon plants, these plants are much more likely to do well because they have a larger root system to combat the existing trees that you have in that location. And so your growth is just going to be more successful because of that.
How are they with regard to sound and lights? Would that serve some protection for the homes that?
Lights for sure. I can't speak to sound, but given what you guys are doing for the pickleball court, which we're doing some installation out there, up to the point of where the hedge grows, you will have a sound buffer. The sound barrier that you guys are using for the fence out there is a cotton, more of a soft barrier. And so because of that, it absorbs sound rather than reflecting it. And so plants being basically made of the same material, very soft leaves, sticks and things of that nature,
should help to absorb sound and baffle it as it comes over this way. So, yeah, I don't see that there being much struggle with buffering sound either, but I am no expert in that.
Any other questions?
We need a motion.
If you're gonna make a motion, I think you should specify that the warranty will be for as long as they're maintaining it.
Okay. Well,
I would make the motion that we accept LMP's proposal with a 2-year guarantee on the plantings.
Well, Cheryl, I think we heard them say that they'll guarantee it for as long as they're maintaining it. So if you want to make that part of your motion.
We'll adjust.
Yes, okay, then I,
And
to
they're not-
accept the LMP proposal. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say that LMP is nodding their heads.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
we'll adjust the estimate
We
verbiage.
accept the LMP proposal with a guarantee for as long as LMP is our landscape maintenance professional.
second. I would like that placed in the contract too.
Yeah,
They said they're gonna amend the proposal.
Yeah, we'll adjust the verbiage.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving back, supervisors, we now have item number 5A, which is the consideration of the first addendum to the professional technology services contract. This is behind tab number 3 for your review. This pretty much memorializes the amounts that were included in the adopted budget.
I would move it.
Question for Belinda though, did it go down from the prior? Oh, I was reading something wrong.
Not better.
I was, well, no, well, that's why I had to ask, so I thought it went down. I misunderstood. Never mind.
I made a
So
motion.
this is a total of $570 a month?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I need a second to my motion.
Is there a second? Any further discussion?
I'll second it.
Too late.
Can't beat you.
All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Thank you.
So it's 4%.
The next item on the agenda is item number 5B, which is the consideration of the sixth addendum to the professional district services contract. This is behind tab number 4 for your review. And this memorializes the increases that were included in the adopted budget.
I move it.
And that's a total of $68,839.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we accept it.
It's already been made.
Okay,
You would be the second.
So
I'll second that.
I have a question.
Sure.
The general management and oversight, 10,800 that's included in that. I guess I'm trying to figure out why that's not covered in the standard ongoing services that we just approved.
We didn't approve it yet.
You didn't approve
No,
it?
the one we just approved.
The one you just approved is for technology.
We're still
It's
talking
different.
about, the $68,000 one. We're still talking about tab 4, Dan.
Okay, sorry.
I thought you were talking about
Jumping
bringing
ahead
that
to
out.
tab 5.
Any further questions? Discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Thank you. We now have item number 5C, which is the consideration of the fourth addendum to the professional amenity services contract. This is behind tab number 5 for your review.
Same question.
Total of 223, 241.
Yes.
Correct.
So it says general management and oversight is the cost associated with the company's expertise and time and information, day-to-day scope of services, management, oversight, hiring, training of staff. And I guess, which staff are we talking about?
You're talking about Keith, his assistant, and the maintenance person.
So I guess I don't appreciate the $10,800 charge. I don't understand why that's included here. Why it wouldn't be covered
With the 223.
by the the standard ongoing services charges.
I'm not clear on what you're trying to ask me, Ken. You're talking about, you're comparing the district management, the initial district services contract?
I guess I'm trying to
This is
figure out.
separate department, separate oversight. I think that's where you're confused. I don't oversee the amenity services division, so it's an entirely different department.
Okay. Then I guess I'm questioning why there's a $10,800 charge for what expertise and time is associated with the management oversight, hiring, training of Keith.
That is Michael Rodriguez, which you've met, and Greg Rule. They oversee that department, and they provide training, oversight. It also includes whatever management-related activities need to be done as part of the general functioning for that department. This year, we separated this line item from the total, because if you recall, when we discussed this, the board wanted me to separate out the general management and oversight costs from personnel.
Right. So that's great. So now we have an appreciation that we're paying $10,000, $800 for that oversight. I guess where it fits in the scheme of things of Rosetta Company, not the district services, but it just seems like the oversight of one or two people. I don't know what we're getting for that. Other than it's an administrative charge.
It is, it's
Cover
great.
overhead, and I don't know why that isn't built into the fees.
It was, but you wanted
No,
it
it's
separated. You wanted it separated out, so
Right,
it
what you
was,
said.
but, and it's not
So we
uncommon.
have no choice in that.
No, I mean, if you want to continue with the amenity services division, then no.
Okay.
But if you'd like to have direct contact with Michael, he can provide you with further information on whatever you need. I know he reached out to the board, to several board members during the budget season for clarifications that were asked.
I know, this is a different subject, and I know what I'd hear from Michael, so it's okay. Just seemed like a lot.
Is there, has anyone made a motion?
No,
I make a motion. We accept it.
is there a second?
I just want to be
I'll
clear,
second
so we're voting on the district services, the amenities,
Amenities.
services. That's what I thought, okay. Because we've gone back.
Right, already.
Rich, was that a second?
Yes.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
The administrative charge for the whole district service is only $66.84. But the
Because that's
administrative,
your administrative services is Carrie or Michelle now. That's what that is.
okay,
It's not administration of staff.
so there's no general management oversight included in the district
No.
cost?
No.
But there is for the amenity management.
Yes.
Seems inconsistent.
Not necessarily, because I oversee your district and all aspects of your district. You don't have additional people involved.
So you're
Carrie's
allowed-
time is only for preparation of agendas. That's why you're not billed general management and oversight on the district services portion.
Okay.
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I'm not opposed.
Cheryl?
Present.
So that 5-0.
Are you in favor, Cheryl?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Thank you.
It's called the Jill.
Shoot. We now have item number 5D, which is 5E, which is the consideration of resolution 2024-01. It's the adopting fiscal year 2023-2024 meeting schedule. This is behind tab number 6 for your review. I did want to have a discussion with the board on whether or not you want to continue with the same schedule, or if you want to modify the schedule to, instead of 2 meetings a month, 1 meeting a month, or changing the dates mid-month to try to cover as much as we can mid-month. It's entirely your decision, but we really haven't been holding 2 meetings unless it's absolutely necessary, so it's really your choice.
Well, I'm a firm believer in only having a meeting if there's a need to. And just because I know in my 7 years, it's been almost traditional for 2 meetings a month, I've made it clear that I don't think we need them. And I think it's been proven that we don't actually need them. It's in some cases it's a cost-saving measure to only have 1 a month. And I think it works well for us. That's simply my opinion.
And can we add them, like during the budget cycle, there's a lot more to talk about and go through. So can we add,
Correct.
if we only had 1 meeting scheduled that month, I assume we could add one.
You can always
How
add
much
one.
notice do you need, Ian?
You need 7 days, but I always say 10 days because it takes the paper a few days to get their act in order. So call it 10 days. But if you add a meeting, you can always add a meeting, no problem. We have to advertise it unless it's an emergency. And it would cost for advertising.
If we were to do that, I guess, well, maybe it doesn't matter. I'm just thinking of the timing of when we get the financial statements, for example. We wanted to discuss anything that's in there or have questions for Andrew.
So
as
after
a
the
group.
20th then.
Yeah, although if we had them at the beginning of the month, like we have the first meeting as the second Monday.
Right, then we could discuss the prior month's financials. So in other words.
Well, the financials you wouldn't have until after the 18th of the month.
Right.
So.
But we'd have it for the prior month.
Right,
Yeah.
for the, yeah, so then what you're saying is just consider, up until budget period, getting rid of the second meeting in the month.
Well, maybe it's the first
The
meeting,
first meeting.
because then we'd have the financial
No, the first
statements
meeting,
for the
right.
prior month
I
at the
misunderstood
time of
what
the
you
second
said.
meeting.
I see.
If we're gonna keep it the fourth Monday.
I know you talked about, Belinda, you mentioned to mid-month. I do have a meeting on the 3rd Monday of every month, so we could maybe find something else to fit in, but I have water week on the 3rd Monday of every month.
Well, I think we're all in the cycle, so whether it's the second or fourth,
Yeah.
it seems like it ought to be one of those two.
Well, the point about having the financials in makes sense to not have the first meeting of the month, but have the second meeting. Because the financials will be in by that point.
Right.
What does everybody think about that?
It's a good idea.
Bert, you got November and December a little mixed up because of the holidays, so it might not start till January.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, I was surprised, how come there's no November
There's not much
27th,
you can do.
even though it's the Monday
Not
after.
much you can do in November or December, but we can starting in January.
We typically don't hold a second meeting in November because of the holidays and
Right.
travel schedules. So we can add it if you'd like it.
I think we should keep it the way it is. And then start to adjust things with January. Keep November 13th and December 11th.
do we need October
But
23rd?
then,
Yeah, do we need that?
well, do we need to?
I don't know, it's up to you guys.
Not really. You know, I'm a firm believer that we need more workshops where we can talk. And once we see the agenda, coming agenda, we can talk it out between us.
I know.
Because it's like we're inhibited so much by the sunshine law. And if we could somehow figure a way to add maybe 2 or 3 workshops in this schedule where we don't have, you guys don't have to come. We're not incurring that expense. And
Do those have to be advertised?
They do.
Yes.
They do. And you need to keep minutes, but someone can press play on the tape or whatever.
yeah, that's it.
Are these meetings already noticed? All of these? They're not.
The only one that was noticed was today.
Okay.
Since
So we don't have to have the 23rd, which would be great.
Right.
And
Keep it for a workshop.
so again, I would request that we had maybe 2 or 3 workshops during the annual calendar.
Why don't we add those as we need them? Just like
As
add
we need them,
meetings
yeah,
as we need
because
them.
sometimes you
Just a cost, but otherwise-
wish you could talk to the other supervisors when you see something on. You said, whose idea was that? You know?
Given the past workshops that you've had, they've proven to be successful because
Yes,
the
yes.
meetings ran efficiently directly after. So
Absolutely.
you can add them and you'll have a successful meeting post the workshop.
How about the idea of having a workshop second Monday and a meeting the fourth Monday?
Would work.
I have some boards that do that meet twice a month. One is a workshop, one is a meeting.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I just want to see workshops.
Because I agree with you. You go, we went a couple of months this summer without a meeting, and unfortunately, there wasn't any pressing issues that had to be dealt with, but, we're gonna have, things always come up in season, need to be talked about.
So maybe we keep the schedule and we make the first meeting of the month the workshop, and then if we find we need to edit it, we can edit it, but at least everything's noticed.
But if you cannot take formal action at a
Right,
workshop.
understood.
But you could.
But we can talk things out, and at the second meeting,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
that's,
how things get done, right?
yeah, things get done.
Or you could leave them all as meetings and just sort of treat the one as a workshop. But if you had to take action that day, you could. You could notice it as a meeting and workshop. That's kind of what I'm saying. We wouldn't necessarily have to be there if that was your choice, of course. And then, but if you found yourself having to take action that day, you could, whereas if it's only noticed as a workshop, you would not be able to take action. It's up to you. Maybe you like the idea of not being able to take action, but it's
Yeah,
just for discussion,
absolutely.
so it has its pros and cons.
I can go either way, but,
Kind of makes sense to me to keep the schedule as is, especially since we'll have to add meetings for the budget cycle. And then we can just change the first meeting to workshops as we see fit.
Well, like Richard said, do we need a meeting on October 23rd? I don't see it.
Well, again, you can leave it on here too and decide to cancel it right up until. But, yeah.
Well, I think,
do you
I
think
think
we
the
have to
October
notice the
23rd meeting,
cancellation?
we should deal with that issue today, whether we're gonna have it or not.
Okay.
We could cancel that one, keep the 13th of November, the 11th of December,
Yep.
and then as you go into the new year, from month to month, decide if we need that first or second meeting.
Sure.
That makes perfect sense to me.
But we have to throw in some
Can we do that?
workshops. You
Sure.
still, well, yes.
You don't, and Ken just asked the question, to cancel a meeting, you do not need to advertise in the paper. I mean, we can do an e-blast or put it on the website, or however we can let the residents know, but you do not have to put it in the newspaper.
So there's a cost savings by, because we don't have to advertise it. So if we keep the schedule as it is, and then just for argument's sake, on November 13th, we decide whether we're meeting on December 11th. And on December 11th, we decide whether we're meeting on the 8th, and so on and so on. Keep the schedule as posted and simply make adjustments the meeting prior. Does that work?
That works, but we also should decide if we need a workshop. If you could add that in as well.
Well, that's why you're leaving in the first meeting of the month,
Okay.
because you can turn it into a workshop.
Yeah, if you're in your December 11th meeting and you decide you don't need your January 8th meeting, you could still make that a workshop. Okay.
And then you
Okay, I'll
guys
go
don't
along
have
with
to be
that.
there, and then that's a
Correct.
cost, some kind of cost savings for
The other
us.
thing I'll mention is that I agree that the workshops have been successful, but a lot of that was because we knew what the meeting agenda was, and we met on that same day, an hour or so before, and hammered out some things. And then once the meeting started, we went through things very efficiently. So I'm leaning towards having the workshop prior to a regular meeting, but we already have a set agenda.
Or a tentative.
Or tentative.
You can work with a tentative.
Yeah, the tentative agenda would work, sure.
I support that.
So what I'll do is I'll rework our schedule office-wise as to when we provide tentative so that it coincides with your workshop. So what we'll do is we'll issue the tentative earlier so that everybody has the tentative on hand for your workshops.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or changes to the resolution?
Just so,
To confirm, we're gonna cancel the October 23rd meeting?
Yes.
October
That's what I
23rd,
heard.
we're going to cancel.
So our next meeting will be
Okay.
November 3rd.
yeah, and
November 13th.
so you all know, I will
Okay.
not be here the 13th of November. I have to be up north.
Okay. Do we have a forum?
Yeah, well. For the first time. Yeah. I'll be here.
Jill, do you
Pickle
need, are you going to participate in Teams or you won't participate?
I'm gonna be in an airport, so
Okay.
maybe
I'll
the
send
first
you-
part of the meeting.
I'll
Yeah,
send you the
maybe the
link.
first part of the meeting, if I can
Okay.
find a quiet spot in the LaGuardia, which is questionable.
You want to look wide? Okay.
Okay.
In the right place.
Do we need a motion to accept?
The elimination of the October 23rd date. And October
I'll make
9th.
that motion.
There's a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you. We now have item number 5F, which is the consideration of the dog park ad hoc task force charter. This is behind tab number 8 for your review. Cheryl, do you want to give an overview on the charter?
Yes, we talked about several months ago before we went on hiatus for the summer, based on the request from several residents to reassess the possibility of a dog park. So the way I worded this is it's an ad hoc task force that will only last for 6 months. The goal will be to assess the potential spaces and recommend a location and design, or if a consensus cannot be reached or majority design recommendation cannot be reached, that same thing will be reported to the board. The task force would have 5 to 7 members, depending upon volunteers, with a minimum of 2 of those not owning a dog, so that make sure that we have disparate opinions. And this does also, I believe, allow for one extension for an additional 3 months at the discretion of the board if they're having difficulty reaching a decision.
Any questions, changes to the charter?
Okay. How are the members
Aye.
selected? Cheryl?
Say
How
again, I'm sorry.
are, how are the participants or who makes the decision as to who or whom are selected?
Well, this would go out with the request for volunteers, and then after reviewing the volunteers, I would come back to the board, a recommendation for who should be on the committee, and we can have a discussion at that point.
So,
That's the way we've done it in the past.
Okay.
Right.
I know someone who has contacted me and would like to participate, but I can't call you and tell you this, but.
You can send their information to.
Okay, Belinda.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna weigh in here and be a different view on how we might approach this. In the board's strategic plan, where we talk about the amenities provided to residents, we talk about surveying residents once a year. about the amenities and what's provided and whether people are happy. My personal view is rather than doing a task force, I think we need to start by asking the question as part of a broad annual resident survey. I think doing an ad hoc task force puts us in the realm of where we've been in the past on amenities that I think have gotten us into some trouble where people don't know something's happening. I actually got grabbed in the golf club over the weekend because somebody said they'd heard, because people don't follow the CDD board agenda. So I think if we're gonna, well, you know, those golfers. But no, seriously though, I do think that if we're gonna be making something this important, a potential change to the amenities, I think that we should be doing it in connection with a plan and not an ad hoc task force, just my view.
Oh, my only question, Jill, would be, we agreed to do this before, it was in June or July, just pending me writing a charter. So that's the only reason I went forward with this. And frankly, I just want to be clear that I don't even know if there's a space that will actually work, that will not. So this was really an exploration with a recommendation that the board can do with, the board doesn't have to approve the recommendation either. So just pointing that out.
So back when the.
Cheryl, you bring up a very good point in that we had looked at available areas in the community, and it's basically nothing. That SBL easement is going to be problematic from the start, so I would stay away from that. However, I will say that my conversation with Jay Pittman, the general manager of the golf course, remains ongoing. And as recently as, well, I haven't been around in the last 3.5 weeks or so, but my most recent conversation with Jay is that the powers that be at Heritage are still reviewing the possibility of using golf course property and, of course, golf course money to consider the dog park.
Which is great, and I think that conversation should be part of this work. But again, I think that the last time the dog park was done, I have all the documents from Rick, it was really mixed in with the pickleball.
Correct.
This just takes on a separate path and says, okay, let's just look at, does this even make sense for this community? And is there even a spot that makes sense for the community? Just so that we can either move forward or put it to bed. One or the other.
Well, this came up, this seems to me, this came up because one resident sat in a meeting and asked about it. And that's when the topic came back to life. But other than that, one person who brought it up twice, you know, has there been a lot of side conversations in your Friday, you know, drunken stupor in the bar out here?
Well, to be honest with you, they've been
Right
against it, but I think that this personally, I think this is why it, and I totally appreciate and understand, you know, Cheryl's point about wanting to put it to bed, but you know how things get a life in this community, you know, and I guess that's my concern is that, you know, the process maybe should be one that is potentially seen by more residents, which it would be if it was at least included as a question in you know, in the annual survey, but maybe that causes more problems than something like this. I don't know.
Well, that won't happen until the first of the year, like.
Yeah, it's okay. We've lived without one for 10 years.
I don't know what demand there is for it. Nobody's ever brought it up to me other than the one person in here. Are any of you
So I will,
calls, emails?
and I did get an email from people requesting that we look into this. So I got a number of emails of support after that meeting, and I've also been stopped a number of times before the summer. So that's just FYI.
Okay, no, that's good to know.
Okay, so what are we doing?
Want to approve the charter?
You need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the charter.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I don't have a dog in this race.
No, I'm just gonna say one more thing, because I'm concerned, I'm just concerned that it's gonna create, some discussion in the community and a bit more division, and I'm concerned about it. Because how I read the charter was, I read it as it's a foregone conclusion that if space can be found, the recommendation would be yes. The other thing I would suggest, if you all do want to go forward with the charter, is I don't think that members should be able to be removed by a majority vote of the task force. I don't know that we have that on any other committee that's advisory to the board, and I don't think that's.
We do.
We do?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yep, you have to.
Okay.
Yep, with fitness, with tennis.
Just saying.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed.
Then I'll be opposed.
Okay.
You're gonna be opposed too?
Cheryl, are you in favor or against?
Yes, I said aye, sorry.
You're in favor, Ken, correct?
Sure.
Okay. So motion
Yes.
carries 4 in favor,
Just a
1
check.
against.
Check in.
The next item on the agenda is item number 5G, which is the discussion and approval of the CDD General and River Club Reserve Study expenditure. Can you ask for this item to be added to the agenda?
Yes, so at our last Finance Reserve Committee meeting, we as a committee decided that we really needed to update the reserve study. That even though it's not due just yet, with inflation the way it's been, with the surprise factors we've gotten in costs and pricing on some replacement items, it just seemed from the standpoint of the facility committee, all the things that are being discussed about needing to be done, we needed a better starting point again, or touch point. So for the cost of $3,500 with no site visit, or $5,400 an update with a site visit, it just seemed this was a good time to do it. That we needed to get an update on our overall reserve situation. And the opinion of the board is we go with the $5,400 cost of an update with a site visit. Thereby, somebody on site can talk to new Besta management that's here. They can have their opinion. The facility committee has come up with a number of recommendations over the next few years. So it just seemed a prudent thing to do. I think we're just pulling it ahead a year. But so much has changed out in the world that we really need to take another hard look at it. So I would like to make a motion that we approve an expenditure of $5,400 to have a reserve study update done.
Is there a second?
Sorry.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Just have a quick question for Ken. Can we please request the percent funded status in connection? Say yes.
The last time, we can request it, but the last time we requested it, they said they don't do it anymore.
Maybe we need to find another vendor.
I don't have a problem not having it. I don't think it really provides that much information, other than more dissension among the residents.
And the board.
Yeah.
I think it's a very important calculation myself, but I can only make the request.
We can ask.
That'd be
I have no
awesome.
problem.
Yep, that'd be cool. Could you please?
If they'll do it,
Yep.
then I don't have a problem with it.
otherwise I'll have to figure it out myself.
Well, no, it's just, we've had it before and it really, I don't know, I've never found it to be all that insightful.
Well, I think if a percentage comes in at 29% and you know you're poorly funded, I think that's quite educational, but that's my view.
I think you could determine whether you're poorly funded or not, just from the report itself.
I don't disagree with you that I think the quality of the report is critical, because we know that the issues with the past reports were, the actual useful life versus the number that was put in there and the replacement cost and
Absolutely.
in the timing, if we get all those things wrong, who cares about the calculation? I get it, so
The substance of the report is very critical.
definitely reform. Thanks, appreciate it.
Henry Claude?
All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Thank you. Cheryl, did we lose you?
No, I'm here. I said aye, but I think I said it at the same time as Rich, so yes, aye.
Thank you. Moving forward, supervisors, the next item on the agenda is item number 5H, which is the consideration of the Metro Pumping Systems Inc. proposal to rebuild the main turbine pump. This is behind tab number 9 for your review. Keith, do you want to give the board an overview?
Yes. About 3 weeks back, of course, we have 5 pumps up there, 5 turbines. One went down, and so that's the proposal in front of you, to bring a crane in. And luckily, when we built this system up there with the cover over it, it has a hatch in it that we can go down through and pull it out, and saves a lot of time. So it's just a proposal. We're running on 4. It's not the best because you're pushing the turbines, right? But we can do it, but it's not something we should do. You just put more pressure on the other ones that are there rather than having them all working the way they're supposed to.
There's no warranty on this pump, Keith?
No, we're 4 years in, I think, 3.5 years in.
Wow.
And these things, I mean, they're working great, so, this new system is.
Okay. This isn't any share cost with the golf course, right? This is all ours?
It's all ours, correct.
Okay.
So this is an estimated price. It says the actual price, you won't know until they pull and dismantle it and take a look at it.
It's not gonna be any more than that, because they may not have to, there's a shaft, they're not really sure if that shaft has been bent. If it's not bent, then we can continue to use it and just put in all the other stuff.
So
I guess if we're gonna do this, it's gonna be a not to exceed amount?
Yes, sir.
And I can prepare a contract that says that.
Well, so it would be less if the shaft isn't bent.
Correct.
So there's a couple more things. It says optional work not included in price. Added to job if determined they need to be replaced. So if those 3 things happen, replace the check valve, replace the ISO valve, retrofit the vacuum drain, so on, that's going to add to the price. So if you do a not to exceed, isn't that problematic?
I would think so.
If some of these things.
Oh, they don't know exactly until they get in there.
Well, that's my point.
Pull it out.
So if it's a not to exceed and they find out it's going to cost more, you have to come back to us.
So what if we do not to exceed 15,000?
Yeah, well, I have no idea what these other things would cost.
And I certainly don't, so.
And it also says this estimate is for the liquid end only. The motor will be pulled and inspected. If work is needed, a quote will be provided. So if there's a problem with the motor, it's going to be an additional cost. Now, maybe it doesn't matter because if we have to do it, we have to do it. But yeah, that's why I guess I wouldn't necessarily put a not to exceed unless the cost of these other things are within Rich's approval, then you could just go to him.
Right.
Because you just don't want to delay, you don't want to get it up there and then find out, you gotta wait another month before we have a meeting.
Sure.
So, I don't know how you want to.
I wouldn't do a not to exceed because it encourages these vendors to reach that level. So,
Well, they don't know that.
yeah,
Well, but I need to prepare a contract.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, right now, I can just prepare the contract for 13,000 and then allow for written change orders, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Assuming a motor isn't more than.
Okay.
Because if they're individual things, then if Rich's limit is, 5,000, then at least maybe we could sort of squiggle it that way if it's urgent.
You can always ratify it later
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So,
So they bring a crane and pull this up.
Correct.
Does the crane stay there while they inspect it, or does the crane leave, and then if there's more to be done, it has to come back? Or it has to come back probably.
I think that they're planning on doing it all in one day.
No. So they'll know right away if these.
They'll know right away.
And would they have a motor on hand? Would they have a motor on hand if we need it? Don't know.
Don't know.
Well, just a question to ask.
Yep, okay. I'll ask.
Yeah, I just don't want it to be put off for a month because we have to have another meeting.
Right.
So you want to just do a motion to approve the work being done by Metro? And if there's a need for additional costs, it will be brought back to you for ratification.
Is there a way to make the additional cost? Is there a way for us to allow Rich to use his discretion on the additional cost if it goes beyond 5,000?
Sure.
Yeah.
I just don't want it
I'm good
the
with
thing to
that.
get pulled and it sits there for a month.
Right, because I'm hanging on the crane because you don't have.
Because it sounds like we're gonna have to do it.
Yeah, no, I think it's what we have to do.
Yeah.
I think it's what we have to do.
So we're saying that Rich has an additional discretionary amount up to $5,000.
Well, he has that in.
Not even limited, just, I mean, it needs to be fixed, right?
Yeah,
These are the guys fixing it, so with Rich.
I'm suggesting not limited, but again, he would use his discretion if it became an extraordinary amount. I assume he would have Belinda reach out to us or something.
Well, we can't make a decision around the meeting, but you can always ratify the expenses later. Just gonna have to trust that Rich knows what he's doing. I trust you, Rich.
Yeah.
Thank you. There are some people that do question that.
Yes.
I'm fine with taking that responsibility. I don't have a problem with it at all. It needs to be repaired and,
He's our guy.
I don't think it's something that we should wait on.
Okay.
I don't know how you.
So it'd be a motion to approve, the proposal from Metro Pumping Systems of $13,059.64, subject to potential change orders at the discretion of the chair.
Perfect. Second.
Sounds good.
Good job on this.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 We now have item number 5I, which is the discussion and consideration of the Facilities Advisory Committee recommendations, the pool bar, storm and security roll downs, and the River Club roof reserve estimate.
Pass these out real quick. I apologize, Rich and Cheryl, I don't know if you can hear me, but I can send you this. I didn't realize you weren't gonna be here, I'm sorry. So I want to take, let me grab the microphone. So I want to take you quickly through three things that the Facilities Committee's been working on. The first is a number of months ago, actually with Andrew's predecessor, we started discussing the idea of roll downs for the tiki bar. And the reason was kind of twofold. It was Well, and before I get to that, you'll recall that we took the roll downs out of the tiki bar. You all, the board took the roll downs out of the tiki bar estimate when Steve was preparing that so we could get the cost of the tiki bar down. But it's become pretty clear that both for security, what I would describe as security reasons for the tiki bar, sanitary reasons, protection of the equipment, and also separately saving a fair amount of staff time to set up and break down the tiki bar at the end of every day that the tiki bar is open. Takes a lot of labor. So the committee wanted to look into whether we could retrofit some roll downs onto the tiki bar that would go around the three sides of it, and whether those should be metal, which actually would probably look like a storage box, or whether they could be screening, and was that adequate? We did bring Andrew into the discussion, and the committee talked to two vendors, StormSmart and Jansen, and after some discussion and a motion was passed and approved by the committee, they have in front of you, you've got a proposal from StormSmart for a little over $20,000 for 3 motorized roll downs for the tiki bar. Those would be used every day. So at the beginning of the shift, they'd go up, and then at the end of the shift, they would go back down. They would also, I didn't mention before, but I should have, they're going to provide some protection for the bar stools that are around the tiki bar. So of the two vendors, StormSmart was a little bit more money than Jansen at 20. StormSmart came in at, we got them down to 20. The committee actually got them down to 20. Jansen was in at 16, but StormSmart has a much better warranty on both their material and on the motors, which if you have these, you know that the motor is often the thing that goes first. So what we're looking at then are 3 motorized roll downs, probably with black screening for, I think that would look the least grubby over time. So, and there's a lifetime guarantee on the screening, and the motors have there's a time and materials guarantee over time that's actually pretty favorable. So I'd like to ask the board if you would be, on behalf of the facilities committee, if you'd be willing to approve the roll down proposal from StormSmart, which comes in at $20,104.75. It is a turnkey cost, so this includes any electrical or any other labor. That's the total cost.
Was there any discussion about making these manual pull downs?
It's an interesting question, Rich. We did, it does come with a manual crank, and you're probably right, it would save some money. It's a lot of work. I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure you guys have them on your house. It would be a fair amount of work to crank them down and crank them back up. I'm
No,
sure.
that's not what I'm.
Oh, sorry.
I have a StormSmart product on my house.
Yes.
But on one of the doors, it's a pull down metal shade. It's not difficult to pull down at all. Similar to a Venetian wine.
Yes.
The other ones
Yep.
are automatic.
Yep. Yeah. We thought about the metal ones, and we priced the metal. Although I think we did price the metal with the motors, and the metal was more. The metal was $27,000. That was for all 3, and that was with motors. One of the concerns with the metal, though, is that over time it's going to get dinged, and it's going to start to look not very nice, which was actually one of the really considerations that the committee had, and I think that the fitness and pool committees also had, is what's it going to look like when the tiki bar is not open? So I take your point, and we did not price the metal without the motors.
So these are metal?
No, this would be screen. It's the armor type screen. It's the It's actually polypropylene product they make themselves, but it's,
What's the material?
it's polypropylene.
They're hurricane
Is
screens.
that like?
Yes, hurricane screens. Sorry, Cheryl?
And it was, I asked if it was like the Kevlar screen and if it was priced without the motor.
We did not price it without the motor, no. And with the screen, I think you would want to have a motor because it would take a long time to crank it up. But I understand Rich's point about the, I would call it a metal tambour roll down, because those are actually pretty easy to drop down and put back up. I think the concern the committee had was over time, the metal is going to start to look, dented and dinged. But I could go back to the committee if, if you'd like to have that done, we can certainly do that.
I would like to
I
see.
can see that, Jill, I can see a need for this, no question about that.
Yeah.
I'm not, and I'm not questioning that aspect of it.
Sure.
But I would just like to see what the cost would be for a manual pull down as opposed to the motor.
Right.
The manual pull down eliminates the problem of the maintenance of the motor, for one thing, and there may be a cost saving. So, I will certainly support this issue.
Okay.
I'd like to see what the cost would be making it a manual pull down.
Okay.
I would like to
And
see
Jill, this
some.
is, has Andrew weighed in on this?
He's picking up a microphone.
I think Jill covered most of it. One thing I think it was left out was liability.
Yes.
When you get busy down there and people are running in and out, kids are playing games, if the facility's closed or whatever the case is, they can run around and get hurt. So that, in between the security of product and so forth.
And I would like the Pool and Fitness Committee to review it. And since they were quite instrumental in the new design out there of the tiki bar, I would like our committee to just review it. They may have some input in it or request some input in it vis-a-vis facility.
If it helps, Nancy was at, I think, almost all of the meetings.
You were there, Nancy?
Nancy was there.
Okay.
But I take your point, so, well, if I'm gonna look into the, the without motor anyway, because I did double check the estimate of the upper metal did include the motor. So.
Okay, well, Nancy needs to probably make some type of presentation to the committee, our committee.
If I could speak, we have our meeting on October 18th. In case someone,
Okay, so I'm gonna look into this a little further.
one of your guys that was at the.
Yes,
Charter
Rich, and
committee
Nancy's just saying
that
something.
was in charge of this. could be
Right.
on October 18th. I'll send you it.
Yeah, so just for Rich and Cheryl, because they're on the phone, then what Nancy Spakowski, who's, as you know, chair of Fitness and Pool, we're gonna have somebody from facilities go to her meeting on the 18th, hopefully, and explain what we're doing so that, we'll get through the 13th, but we'll figure it out. So, yep, I will go back and do that, and we'll do everything with the Fitness and Pool Committee, and we'll take it from there. Okay. Good. So that's the roll down, so thank you for your consideration on that. We'll take it a little bit further. And then just quickly on the River Club roof, I wanted to let you know, and I think I mentioned earlier, that, we've been looking into some repairs on the roof with a company that we have a contract with. Equally, the Facilities Committee has been looking at the reserve study and the item that's in the reserve study for the River Club roof, which shows it coming due in 2025, which actually puts the roof then at only 20 years old, at $372,000. So with all the roof discussions back and forth that all of us have, or many of us have had with the damage from the hurricane, I had also emailed Belinda a while ago, and we talked about the last time that Aegis looked at the roof, we're going to be talking about insurance later, but wanted to let you know that the Facilities Committee is coming up with a list of questions that it will have for the roofing vendor to try to get us to at least our own understanding of the life of the roof, and, what would be involved with it and whether 372 is a good number or not. So I think it's such a big number, and there's some concern about whether, what if the insurer comes back and says, well, you think your roof has another 5 years, but guess what? We're not gonna insure you, which I don't think would happen. Now that I understand what Aegis is and what FIA is, it would not happen. So that's actually a big load off. But I think we still should, as a committee, do some additional investigation on that. So I want to let you know that. And then finally, let the board know that, because you may hear it from residents, the two towers that are on the River Club, what I'll call the bell tower in the back and the clock tower in the front, both have some cosmetic and also some repair issues. You'll see, especially on the back tower, the bell tower, I would describe as squiggles. Somebody actually thought it was graffiti.
Yeah.
It looks like graffiti. The River Club maintenance staff are looking into a vendor to come in and address that. And one of the challenges is the height of the towers. We're probably going to have to put scaffolding up. So we're going to have how it looks, just so you know. It's going to be a scaffolding issue, especially an issue with the back of the bell tower because it faces the preserve. So they're going to have to get creative how they do the scaffolding. And at the same time, since setting up scaffolding is so expensive, we're going to get an option for the cost of potentially painting the towers. Because if they're up there, maybe it's cheaper ultimately after we do the repairs. We may have to potentially address painting them, which could beg the question of what, the painting of the River Club down the road. But anyway, I wanted to sensitize you that that's what it's going to look like, but also if you're getting questions from residents about the state of the towers, I wanted to make you aware that that's happening, so.
Jill, we're gonna have to take a 10-minute break because we don't have a quorum. We're gonna step out. So we're gonna take a 10-minute break at 12:29. Supervisors, Nancy has asked if we could move item number 5O next, which is a discussion and consideration of the purchase of pool furniture, which was listed under separate cover.
I'm fine with that.
Thank you. Nancy?
Well,
Is it on?
I was gonna make that recommendation, but
Oh, you,
go ahead.
you can do it. I don't.
No, I wanted, I would,
Okay, I'll just do it. So basically, as you all know from the time that the budget was, process was started, we talked about completing the purchase of the furniture, outside, so that the old brown stuff could be replaced by, similar, actually same as the, blue umbrellas and furniture. At that point, I had gotten some preliminary guesstimates on what I thought the pricing would be for that which was needed. And I had indicated I thought it'd be in the $120,000 range. We've now gotten firm quotes from two different sources, Tropitone and the umbrellas coming from another company, and the total expectation of these two elements are now $91,428, so quite a bit less than that which we had originally thought. Thank you, Andrew and Therese, for working on this, going direct to Tropitone to get commercial pricing from the source, which saved us a lot on the pricing. So you have in front of you the Tropitone invoice and the Florida patio furniture invoice, which is the umbrella component of it. The only difference between these invoices and the total that I presented you is that there will not be any shipping charge. The Tropitone shipping charge of $800 will be waived as long as we order before February of next year. So I'm asking for approval to go ahead with these purchases. I think we are thinking about 8 to 10 weeks for delivery. The Tropitone requires 100% in advance payment. Teresa's called and followed up on that, and that's what they require. The umbrellas are 50-50, 50 when we order, 50 when received.
okay, you guys understand that Nancy has created the look out there at the pool. The pool, again, is the #1 amenity in this community. She's finishing the look, which appears somewhat the mismatched socks out there with one side brown and the other side blue. This will completely finish that look. And she's brought it in under what we expected, the budget. Thanks to Therese and Andrew, thank you again very much for your assistance in this. And again, we will only have to deal with probably the overusage of that facility with everyone coming to the pool. So I would urge your approval on this so we can move post-haste.
Do you need a motion?
Yes.
So shall I make a motion or do you
Yeah,
prefer?
no, I make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the expenditure of $91,428.56 for the balance of the pool furniture outside at the pool.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
So Nancy, is this the same number of pieces that you were looking at before? 192 pieces?
It's approximately the same number of Tropitone pieces. We went out, did a count, our pool committee looked at the numbers. We made a few minor adjustments in the numbers. We did increase the umbrella numbers after we looked at what we had originally proposed for umbrellas. We were getting comments from people that they wanted umbrellas on the high top tables that are currently in the tiki area. We had never gotten umbrellas for them when we added it. And then Andrew suggested, and we agreed with him, that for the freestanding umbrellas that are near the chaise lounges, that we go with 9 foot instead of 7.5, so that they would be able to cover like 2 chairs at once. And that sounded like a good idea. So the ones we have out there right now are 7.5. The ones we would propose getting for the tables would be the same 7.5, but the freestanding ones would be the larger size. So that was a little bit more of cost. The savings was in the travel team.
That's a great price.
I know, we have to jump on it, right?
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Belinda and I were just discussing that the old furniture will need to be surplus. So I'm not sure if that's something that we want to do now or wait until this new furniture comes in. It's just a motion that you have to declare it as surplus so that you can dispose of it as you see fit. Assuming it's all worth, I don't know what the value is on the used furniture. Have any idea?
On that used furniture, probably not a hell of
Is
a
it
lot.
less than $5,000?
I don't know, but I don't think it would be very much.
All right.
Depends on what
Yeah, who's going?
You have to see a vendor might take it all.
Well, can we make that motion?
Yeah, why don't we just do it
Yeah,
now?
we just do it to protect us.
So it'd be just, board members just looking for a separate motion to surplus the old pool furniture.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
We haven't voted. Surplus.
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I have one legal question to ask you.
Yes.
Okay. They're asking for a full payment up front. As a public entity, can we do that?
We can, whether you choose to or not, but there's nothing I know of that legally prohibits it.
Well, I would point out, I mean, we were kind of shocked by that. I'm not answering the legal question, of course, but before we were dealing with, a retail vendor, which I think would give us all pause to send a check to a retail vendor, but this is Tropicone, the actual commercial company that we're sending this money to. So I think there's a little bit more confidence that that's less of
Western Electric.
I know, I didn't look up your credit rating.
No, we don't have a credit rating.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Great job, Nancy. Thank you for all you do.
So we should point out that it's my birthday today, so thank you for.
It was mine 2 days ago.
My
See that?
Oh, seriously?
It's the same. That's why we.
Thank you, it's still on.
We now have item number 5K, which is the review and discussion of the person Colin Mooney Fernandez of Jackson, PA, memorandum regarding the event. This is behind tab number 11 for your review.
So board members, this was an inquiry that was brought to our office through the chair with regards to the VCA events. And then obviously Roger was here earlier, handed out this flyer. The question that was asked was, does this potentially constitute a private event as opposed to an event that's open to the entire community? And the gist of our memo is that it is, we feel anyway, it is a private event. That being the case, you have your moratorium on private events. So the question is, for the board, do you want to allow these to proceed forward? It's not that, our memo has nothing to do with, whether it can or can't be done. The question was whether we thought it was a private event. In our estimation, it is because of the way that they structured it with limiting it. If you're a member, general member of the public, you have to wait and see if the members fill up first before you can gain admission. And that was sort of the triggering event for our conclusion.
I can understand the conclusion, I guess. I'm trying to think of the ramifications, if any. Obviously, the community association is an association of of residents who choose to belong to that.
I think the gist of it is that the board can certainly allow it if you want, but right now you have a moratorium on private events. So I think that it bears a discussion of whether you want to allow these to occur or not. And the CDD approves private events anyway, so.
So that, to me, that opens the broader question of, do we need to maintain that moratorium? Or are we at a point where we have enough history with Besta, they've updated the contracts, the management, the pricing. We have open Saturday nights again because they moved dinner from Saturday to Wednesday, even though they have some events on Saturdays. Are we at a point where we're okay eliminating that moratorium?
Well, I think the reason why we brought that moratorium was because we were treating events here as if it was John's bargain store. And I don't know, that's all over the country, but we were going in for like $60 a plate and things like that. We were well under the market that we catered to, price-wise. And we were walking away with making probably a couple $100 on events. And that was the main reason why I thought we enacted it. It was under a different management team. We have a very experienced management team here now. And, I'm somewhat comfortable with their judgment. But are we opening up a Pandora's box? I think we possibly need to sit down and set up a policy as to what type of events we should attract here. We may have political events here that will really disturb the whole community, divide the community even more. Or we'll have some other events from religious and other entities that can divide this community. So we need to sit down and set up a policy. I think before we reenact we do away with the moratorium.
I kind of
Why
see
don't
two
we add
things.
that to the agenda for the next meeting? Because that's going to be a topic that's going to certainly evoke some discussion.
I will say, board members, that if your decision is to add this as an agenda topic for the next meeting, just holding this sheet that Roger handed out earlier, looks like there's at least maybe 3 events before you sit down to meet again. So we need to make a decision on those.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Andy, because I see the CA not as an external party. I think what I heard, what I read in the memo, and what I think I just heard you say now is that the fact that members could, in some cases, get preferential treatment for registration creates a situation. So I see that as a completely separate issue from the private events discussion. So is there a way the board, and I wouldn't want to see the CA pay the fees that we might want to charge a truly private party, right? I mean, we don't want to charge the CA, $5,000 to rent the.
I mean, it's up to you guys, obviously, but it sounds like you want to at least open up this more larger discussion now about private events. perhaps having it on the agenda for the next
Next
meeting.
time,
yeah.
Just pointing out that in the meantime, it looks like the CA has at least 3 events, so you can either decide today, I guess you have a number of options, but you could decide 3 events are good. You could decide that the CA doesn't really fit within this larger discussion that you're having, and you're good with all their events. You could decide, I suppose, that you don't like any of their events. I mean,
So but if the CA did not, then if the CA did not have the policy of preferential registration, it wouldn't be an issue, correct? So
not in my mind.
So if the CA, I had this discussion with the CA board member over the weekend, so if the
Okay.
CA, rather than doing preferential treatment, just had a registration table, and when you came in, you said, I remember the CA, and I, oh, you're not, well, here's, just because I don't want to see, I personally, as my personal views, I would not want to see them treated differently from residents. I understand that it may create a concern because we are a government and there's this, the preferential registration thing, but if we can take that out of the equation, doesn't it put them
If they
back
take
in
that out of the
resident?
equation, then I think that it's a community event.
There you go. Bob's wrong.
Because it's open to everybody.
There you go. Yeah. Doesn't that sort it out?
So it's,
If they're willing to do that, I mean, I don't know if that's, right now, their plan, as it's been explained to me, I'm certainly not part of the CA, I haven't spoken with anyone, but their plan as it was, the facts as explained to us in preparing that memo were that they are limiting it and they're making it open first. I'm just making up numbers. Let's say there's 25 seats. The first 20, or all 25 are only open to CA members. If only 20 CA members sign up, they've got 5 seats open for the rest of the public. That's the way I understood the way the events are being conducted.
Some of them.
If some of them, if
Some-
they
some
change
of them.
it so that it's, we only have 25 spots just because that's what the room will hold, but it's first come, first serve, whoever wants to sign up, go for it. That's a different story.
Well, if I were the CA, I can understand the rationale that a dues paying member should get some preference. I don't know if Roger and the group are willing to make that change, but I guess my feeling is I would still, under either circumstance, give them preferential treatment because they are an organization of all residents.
Right, this is
There's
not-
no non-residents that are.
I'm with you, Ken.
So, I mean, again, we just need,
and,
if that's what you want.
and still maintain the moratorium.
Sure. For everything else, at this, so you have your larger discussion.
I have no problems with it. I have no problems.
I'm thinking, I can hear you.
No, I was actually thinking of something like, we have public voting in here, but only vote if you're a registered voter. Seems,
Well,
but let's not go there.
That's not,
So are you looking for, there's a motion to
you want to make a
accept
motion?
your memorandum. Are you looking for, can I make a,
I think it would just be a motion, if I can try and frame it, a motion to allow the CA's event schedule to proceed as planned, and to add a larger discussion of private events to the next agenda. Does that work?
yes,
I make that motion.
Okay, so Ernest made the motion,
I'll second.
Ken seconded it. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
all right.
Okay,
Skated through there.
that takes care of that out.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 5L, which is the review and discussion of the person forward moving Fernandez and Jackson PA memorandum regarding family member use rights of River Club amenities. This is behind tab number 12 for your review.
So, this memo was actually in response to an inquiry which we received from Supervisor Pizarro, just with some questions about use of the amenities. And Dan Lewis from our office prepared this memo in response. And I'm just going to skip to the end where it says, in conclusion, the definition of a resident user extends to the homeowner and almost every person who resides in the home, up to 6 people. However, family members who do not reside in the home, including children over the age of 18, are likely to be considered house guests or day guests. And children under the age of 18 who reside even part-time should likely be considered resident users. So I think the question was, that generated this, correct me if I'm wrong, Jill, was you live here, but you've got family that lives down the street,
Yes.
outside the community.
Yes.
And they're coming in and using the amenities. And the question is, are they using the amenities as part of your quote household, or are they guests? In which case they have to meet the guest rules, and the answer is they're guests.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what if someone owns a house in here, but they're renting it to family members and they actually reside somewhere else?
That was your second question, and Dan actually did some work on that over the weekend as well. And surprisingly, we did not find anything that prevents those owners from still being able to use the amenities. So if you own a home here and your parents are staying in it and you're living down the street, by virtue, outside the community, by virtue of your status as a homeowner, you still have the ability to use the amenities.
And so then that's distinct from you've rented it to Susie and Bob, who are strangers to you.
Then you're giving your privileges to the renter.
So as long as you haven't exceeded your number, you're 6.
Correct. All the other rules still
All the
apply.
other rules,
Of course.
I got it,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
Like I said, I found that a little bit surprising, but that's what we found based on the way the documents are
That's
currently
the way,
drafted.
that's the way it reads, that's the way it reads.
So,
Any questions for Andy on this?
okay, thank you.
Did we ever go forward with an audit of the RFID tags and River Club? And because we still get occasional comments about former residents still coming in here because they've got their RFID tag or they've got their River Club card, they can get access to the pool. I know we talked about it before, and I thought there was something we were gonna do in association with the POA to get those all.
Well, what we do with the RFID stickers, okay, is that when a new homeowner comes in, we take the address, find the name of the people who lived there before, and take them out. Also, the POA brings us in a list of old, when they get a new person in, they bring us a list as well with past residents that lived in that home. Right, so we take them out there. Now, the getting into the pool and the gym and all that is a whole different, that's, what, Andrew and I have talked about that, and I believe that, what's her name? Is purging that system as best she can.
There's so many names over time that there's only one clean way of doing it, and that would be completely clearing the whole base and reissuing cards.
Yeah, which you want.
I think some of you this morning or yesterday received an email from Olivia Payford regarding this whole issue.
Yeah, and it comes up periodically.
Yeah, it does. And
I don't know how much of a problem it really is.
we have people, I'm told, that prior residents using our amenities out there. And at the pool specifically. I think they have more control as it relates to the front gate, but I think we would be well served if we had some type of purging of the system, and everyone should, they have to sign waivers anyhow. We are requiring them to sign waivers for using the pool and all, sign up for new cards. But that whole process, we should do it. I mean, it's been in
I know, but
existence
now
20 years.
2,500 people involved, and an issue that may be, too many people.
We don't know.
What if somebody went through the phone directory
Well,
and,
we've ran into situations that, we got 3 of the same identical names, but they're different people, because a previous might have lived there. It's strange. Yes, some interesting stuff.
but then there should be 3 separate names on the phone directory?
There should be. I guess that's.
I mean, it's like, I don't know if this is possible, but from an audit standpoint, can you print out in alphabetical order, all of the names you have, who hold cards, and then we can get volunteers maybe to cross-check. Go ahead, Reg.
I see this as something that definitely needs to be discussed because we certainly don't handle on the RFID stickers as much as we would like to have. And maybe we need to consider re-registration of the community and start from there. So we have houses that are sold, we don't know who they are, on and on and on. We all know the pitfall. That's another item that we need to discuss at the next meeting and come up with a plan and put it in place as soon as we can to get a re-registration underway.
You know what you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
And execution of the waivers.
Yeah, and I think in addition,
You like?
you need a way, not to have it happen again. And I think, you guys kind of have 8 tigers by the tail when you're dealing with this thing. And like, I'll give you an example, when I sold my car, I completely forgot there was an RFID tag, and you wouldn't know that I sold my car. My guess is my RFID tag is somewhere in Bahrain or something, but, because that's where they ship old cars to go die. They put them on container ships.
No, they stolen cars.
Oh, the stolen, those two. But I do think it's probably something of an issue. And Keith and I have sort of talked in theory about, could we just deactivate all of our RFIDs that haven't been used in less than 365 days? We'd probably get rid of, a whole bunch of them. I mean, that might be a start.
Yeah, it's what some communities have done as well,
Is that right?
or they'll deactivate all of them with the board's blessing and then say, okay, this whole week, we're gonna have check-in from like 10 to a certain time.
Right.
I mean,
By neighborhood,
because this isn't the only, it happens all the time, especially actually in younger communities, that the builder didn't pay attention in the beginning, they just handed out stuff. There's some different ways where they would deactivate based on non-use in 2 years or whatever, or they would deactivate everyone, then everyone has to, then the people that only come here, twice a year would know when they came, they'd have to come and reactivate.
Right.
That seems like,
All right,
first of all,
and budget items for the next meeting.
okay.
There seems to be a lot of ideas tossed around at the same time.
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah, I'll, maybe I could just send my thoughts to Julie or somebody, or Keith, and,
Well, when we're sending the thoughts, let's make sure that we're talking about the RFID sticker for
Yes.
your car
yes,
or the card for your membership to get into the pool. Those are 2 different things.
Right, but we need to address both of them.
And the waivers, I keep saying, the waivers also.
just one final quick question for you on this, Keith, then, since hopefully I'm not gonna be here, but anyway, because we do have at least one golf cart that comes in from outside the community. Right now, they're coming in on the sidewalk, which makes me crazy, and bypassing the gate, which makes me even crazier. Do RFIDs, would they work on golf carts?
Yeah,
They would?
yes.
Okay, so that's a solid.
We have one on our golf cart for Dan.
Okay, thanks.
What do you allow for golf club members who are non-residents?
The membership guy at the golf course, he has our sign-up sheet, and he fills it out for them, and then he signs it down below that they're paying dues for the golf,
So
and
they
then we
get
give them a
tags.
sticker, and they pay for it.
But they get RFID tags.
Correct.
Interestingly, apparently touting the benefit of coming into the community on a golf cart on a sidewalk. So I think maybe we need to also have some rules.
Well, rules are, I caught that one guy that did that. I saw him buzz through, and I went over and I was told 4 different ways to go to, and what I could do when I got there. So, I don't know what we can do, to maybe get with the golf course and tell them they can't golf.
Put a man-gate on the sidewalk.
What?
Put a man-gate on the sidewalk, that'll end it.
He comes on the sidewalk at the main gate.
Yes, he does, and he
Oh,
touted,
you gotta be
he touted the benefits at an open house for new members, saying, oh yeah, after people, I just come right in on the sidewalk.
See, now they can cut through the welcome center, and those gate arms that were there are no longer there. They put some pots right there, and you can go right through those, right around.
Anyway.
We have some
Can we move on?
liability. I mean.
Why not? Good idea.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is item number 5M, which is the discussion regarding the River Club rental guidelines and procedures.
I think we're deferring that, right,
Yeah.
to the 13th of November? I think that's what we're deferring, right, Rich? 5M like Mary?
I think,
Okay,
yeah.
then we're gonna move to 5N, which is the ratification of the insurance renewal proposal, which is behind tab number 13 for your view.
What was the increase on that, Belinda?
10,262.80.
I think it was more than the
So
budget.
it went up about 20%.
It did. Actually, we included a 20% increase in the budget, but the River Club portion was higher due to the property valuation as well as the addition of the pickleball courts.
Well, insurance has gone up all over the place. I wish mine was only 20% increase.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I'll make a motion that we accept that.
Is there a second?
Second.
I just have a couple really quick
Yeah, I had a couple quick questions. While Joe's looking, I noticed on the individual valuations, something jumped out at me, like, are they supposed to be replacement cost estimates or market value, current estimates?
Those are replacement costs.
So like the tiki bar was in there at 55,000.
55,000.
That's,
We just spent 250,000.
well, we can always request that they increase the valuations,
Yeah.
but obviously your costs are going to
Right, so,
skyrise.
but what happens if it got destroyed and we had to replace it? Could they come and say, hey, you did this renovation, you didn't tell us, so we're not gonna pay it out?
Possibly, but if it's listed on the property schedule, it's covered. But they actually had an inspection scheduled with us, which they canceled. So they are gonna have somebody come out again at that time to re-review all of the facilities and all of the items. They'll meet with Keith and they'll be here. I'll notify everybody when they're gonna be on site. But if we have to update the property schedule, we can.
And then the 25 words or less, can you help me understand what inland marine means to us?
Okay. So inland marine is your coverage for anything that would fall under aquatics. So for example, your fountains, your aerators, that is what inland marine coverage is.
Okay,
So you'll see on the property schedule,
I
inland
thought Keith
marine,
had a boat or something.
inland marine will show, any fountains, any aerators, any type of aquatic equipment would be covered under inland marine.
Okay, thank you.
So that's good that you asked the tiki bar question. I have the same question. And is the pool furniture covered, and do we need to, because we've got more pool furniture coming, I mean,
Your pool, I think, is considered covered
Under the furniture.
under the building itself.
The building is.
We don't have it listed, I
Got
don't think they have it listed separately
Okay.
in the property schedule.
No, I didn't.
The pool is separate.
The pool is separate, but I
furniture
wanted to be absolutely sure that, you know, if the pool furniture got destroyed or the, you know, chandeliers in here came down and crashed all the chairs, you know, that's all covered under
That's
that
part
big,
of
that
it.
big $6.7 million lump of
Correct.
stuff. Okay.
So that would fall under, the River Club in its entirety,
Why are we insuring monuments?
because they're,
Belinda?
expensive and costly to replace. You don't have to, but it's recommended that you do. Sorry, Cheryl, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask the same kind of question on the tiki bar,
Mhm.
which is, fair value of 55,000.
Jill and Ken just mentioned that, so that is something that we are going to mention to the inspector when he comes, so that they can, update the property evaluation cost.
Okay, perfect.
So listed in there also were lawns, plants, trees, et cetera.
Where? In the property schedule?
Yeah, in one of the schedules. I was surprised to see it, because
I
then
didn't see any,
I
plantings
think
in the
it's
property schedule.
Yes, okay.
It's page 60 of the,
I thought that was a schedule as opposed of what the code would be versus what they're actually covering of ours. You know what I mean? Because you saw it on this page, right?
Are we talking about extensions of coverage?
Yeah.
Okay, so for example, if, a tree were to fall on this building, okay? The removal and replacement of the tree would be covered since it's part of the River Club. That's what that is for.
oh, so it's not storm damage.
No.
Never mind.
So if we're insuring monuments, I understand from Mrs. Spakowski, birthday girl, that at least one is missing because Palermo's not in there. So we may need to just, if we've decided we want to insure those lovely items at 15,000 apiece, that we have them all. It might have been an old one because that was probably the last one that went in. Now that I think about it, that's Upper Padova, right? Palermo's Upper Padova, I think. Anyway. For what it's worth.
So the total cost is about 12,000 more than we have in the budget?
Actually, it's 10,262.80. Any other questions? If there are no questions, we'd be looking for a motion to, we do have a motion and a second. Yep, so I'm gonna call the vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
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 So, we're gonna move into item number 6A, which is the consideration of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting held on July 24th, 2023, and we are coming up on the 4-hour mark. These are behind tab number 14 for your review. Are there any questions, comments, and/or changes to the minutes as presented?
I have no additional changes.
If not, we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I move we accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Thank you. We now have item number 6B, which is the ratification of the operations and maintenance expenditures for the months of July 2023 and August 2023. These are behind tab number 15 for your review. The expenditures for the period of July 1st through 31st total to $131,479.54. And the expenditures for the period of August 1st through 31st total to $164,531.57. Any questions?
No.
If there are no questions,
I'll make the motion.
Second?
any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Thank you. We now have item number 7, which are consent items for your acceptance. We have several sets of minutes here.
Can we do it in an aggregate?
All at once.
Okay.
Just be a motion to approve the consent agenda.
1 through 9.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a
I
second?
make a motion that we,
Done.
Is there a second?
Ernest, move.
I have just a couple of questions. On the Facilities Advisory Committee of August 1st, it says, item 6 refers to an attachment about the rationale for the pool, why the pool shutters were not in the original proposal, but it's not there. So I don't know if it needs to be or if nobody cares,
We can add it.
but I was curious
I'll get that from
to
Mark.
understand what the rationale was.
We can add it.
Yeah, well, the long and short of it was money. You know, it was gonna save 50 grand, if I recall correctly, but we probably should include it because we're going back and retrofitting, so.
And again, kind of water under the dam, but on the Fitness and Pool Advisory Committee minutes of July 19th, I think I've mentioned this before, but it's in the minutes, it says that the committee voted not to allow outside groups to use the aerobics room. And in our discussion here, that never came up. That the committee voted not to do it. Again, water under the dam. It's done, but I was just, it bothered me that that was never brought to the board's attention. Also, similarly, in number 5, Landscape Advisory Committee minutes of July 3rd, the committee recommended splitting the $1,000 assessment over 2 years. And I had also recommended that in our meeting before we voted, and the same point was never brought up to this board, that the committee voted to split it over 2 years. So I was just disappointed that in 2 situations, things that we were discussing, it was never brought to our attention that the committee made a recommendation. I don't think we were made aware of. That's all I have. Editorial comment.
Any other items? Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Rich?
Aye.
Thank you. Supervisor requests or comments? Are there any supervisor requests or comments?
I just want to say one thing to my fellow supervisors. I want to thank you for being a little more accepting of me trying to do this from home. I felt it was best to stay here rather than spread COVID to everybody else. So thank you very much for your cooperation this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I had one. There are some tennis fees that need to be amended and addressed. And I understand we have to do it through a rulemaking process. So I need a motion.
Motion to authorize staff to initiate the rulemaking process.
Yes. That's my motion.
And just so you know, there's advertising required of basically about 30 days. So figure, a month and a half from now or so, whatever meeting we can time it for. Work with Belinda and her team.
What are we doing?
The tennis.
Okay, I'll second that.
The tennis fees.
Tennis fees?
Yes.
They want to change them.
I would like to change them, but they've been, they're in effect already.
And did you also earlier mention about pickleball rules and regulations?
That's the subject of a meeting in about a half hour with the Racket Sports Advisory Committee. We have not produced that yet. We're in the process of developing that.
Okay.
But
that will come to this board?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I want you in full compliance when you play.
When do you think they'll be ready? In other words, I can make these meeting notices broad enough to cover both topics if we.
Oh, yeah. We have 3 workshops coming up. So I think probably,
Probably going to be a separate train track.
I think so.
Okay, no problem.
So.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to authorize staff to begin the rulemaking process for the tennis fees. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
And then finally, I want to revisit this whole issue of people driving motorized vehicles on our sidewalks. Okay, and that's exposing us to liability. I just got a note here from somebody that they get off the side, step aside for this person who is riding his golf cart on the sidewalk. And I guess it's a daily thing. We need to send notice or do something with regards to this. If we know who the person is, we should put him on notice that he's in violation at least of our rules as well as the city of Venice's rules.
Statutory laws.
Statutory.
You're only allowed motorized vehicle on a sidewalk. The quick answer is no motorized vehicles on a sidewalk. There are some limited exceptions like motorized wheelchairs and things along those lines.
Well, I think we need to find out who this person is and serve notice on this person that they're prohibited from doing this on our sidewalks, because God forbid if someone gets hurt, we'll be named a party.
I think it raises the larger issue as well. We need to have numbers on golf carts, and we're gonna have to work with the POA to get that done.
Well, in this instance, we are on full notice that this particular party is doing it. And I just.
I don't think he's a resident.
Address this right away as opposed to waiting around. He lives, I see him right through. I didn't know he was circumventing the front gate by doing it. I see him on the jack around the sidewalk.
If we have his contact information, Belinda or I can send him a letter. It doesn't matter if he's a resident or not.
Okay, if Keith would go find out his name, address from the golf.
Since you two are tight already.
And we'll put him on
You're
notice.
friendly already.
Yeah, we're tight.
That's all I have.
Any other supervisor requests or comments?
Yeah, just a couple things. So I sent you all an email letting you know that I wasn't doing a newsletter to go out October 1st because we hadn't had a meeting. It just seemed sort of awkward. So I'm working on one now. One thing I wanted to share with you, Keith had very kindly helped me with some information about the distribution list that these go to, and you know how many people are actually getting it, how many people are actually opening it. Looks like we get about 650 opens per issue, which is not great in my book, but I guess it's better than nothing. So I want to let you know I'm thinking about. First of all, I will get a newsletter done for you all to have a look at ahead of the next meeting. And second of all, I'm going to think about how maybe we can get this information out differently in the future that hopefully gets a little bit more attention. So I want to let you know that. And we'll cover that. Probably not at the November 13th meeting because I won't physically be here, but maybe the meeting after that. And then just something for you all to noodle on. I do think we need to pick the strategic plan back up. We had 7 people who worked really hard on it for, how long was it, Ken? Better part of 9 months, something like that? 8 months, 6 months? Yeah.
At least 6.
At least 6 months. And when we met every 2 weeks. A lot of work went into it. I think it's a really
It
good.
might have been 4, because we met every 2 weeks. We wanted to
Oh,
get-
yeah, no, you might be right. It might have been
It was-
December to April, but it was a
Yeah,
lot of.
exactly.
It was a lot of meetings and a lot of work went into it. I think it's a good document that can really help us. So I'm hopeful that maybe as we get into the new calendar year, we can think about how to use it. I think first of all, we talked about doing a once a year in the beginning of the year, and say January, doing a survey of residents. And I think, if we're gonna do that, we gotta start working on it right now, so. please just pull that document out if you have a spare minute and think about it. I think it deserves
You
it.
have it? I think I sent it to you.
Strategic plan? Yeah. So anyway, that's all I had.
Any other supervisor requests or
A
comments?
lot of it dealt with.
It is 1:26 PM. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned at 1:26 PM. Thank you, everybody.
See you on the 13th.
Enjoy your next meeting.
Yeah.